Okay, we're going to give this a couple minutes for people to come in because the computer is trying to download a bunch of updates. I switched it back to my phone. Okay, we'll let the numbers come up a little bit. As soon as I connected this other computer, it decided to do the classic download, forced download of updates. So I switched back to my phone. So sorry, we're going to have to do it through StreamYard, but this will be fine. I'll still be able to get my point across, I hope. Probably not. So give me just a minute here. We got 4 people in here so far, and hopefully it'll get up to about 25,000 here in just a few seconds. And if somebody can type into the comment section and let me know if you hear me 5 by 5. There's my girl. Hey, CL. Can you hear me 5 by 5? Checking the microphone, make sure it's set right, and it looks like it is. And we'll do this in the background. Cool. Okay. All right, so I'm going to make a couple of quick links. CL, if you would like to, you are actually welcome to come in. Pretty much just about anybody is. I think for the first few minutes, though, I'm going to go over a couple things. Hello there, Mr. JHH back. We used to call you a different name because somebody messed it up and we decided to run with it, didn't we? So it's probably going to take, what are we at, 9:07? So, and I said 9 o'clock. That means I normally will start 800 minutes late. So give me about another 2 minutes, I guess. We'll get some more people in here because I don't have anything. Excuse me. I'm speaking another language all of a sudden. Hey, Trisha. Did I meet you on Saturday or Sunday? Hey, Michelle. And I think a lot of people are going to know Michelle here before too long, but we won't talk about that at the moment because we're going to keep everybody kind of quiet for a minute. And let's see, we got a few people to go. I've got 1 more minute on this download apparently. So, NServe. See, NServe is probably saying, "What's Mike doing? He's coming in. He's going to take over what I was going to do tomorrow." But no, I'll still be with you, NServe, and this is not like an open mic night. But you'll definitely want to hear what's been happening. So welcome. NServe is from Australia. You can tell by his accent if you just look at how he spells NServe. All right. So if you're on Facebook and you're seeing this and you can hear me, but you can't for some reason type, the reason is Facebook's connection to this. I'm using StreamYard right now. I was going to use OBS, but OBS or my laptop wanted to do a bunch of downloads, so we decided not to do that. So if you are on Facebook, go to youtube.com/5x5 news US. That's youtube.com/5x5 news US, or just search for 5 by 5 news and it'll get you here anyway. All right. share the screen. I was going to do all kinds of things, but as things would have it. Anyway, this was a last minute thing to come out. I wanted to address some situations that have happened in the last 10 days or so. Quite a bit, actually. We did go live, I guess, 10 days or so ago when we originally announced. When it was announced. Well, let's recap a little bit, because some people are going to see this later, and pretty much as I can see, almost everybody in here knows what's going on. Of course, Inserv doesn't ever know what's going on because he's upside down and backwards and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, if anyone wants to come on the show, let me know, and I will send you a link or post it for a moment. Hope that Thumper doesn't see it. But you can't hear anything at all? Can everybody hear? If you can hear, just put 5x5. If you hear me loud and you hear me clear, put 5x5, which is actually where 5x5 comes from. But it looks like the mic is going. If you're on Facebook, come to the YouTube channel and go through there. Go to youtube.com/5x5 news US, as in the United States, not Australia, and come on board. Okay, so you guys can hear me fine. See, I was in both. All right, so everybody can hear me 5x5. Michelle, can you hear me yet? Well, that's a stupid question. There you go. Okay, I see you. All right, gotcha. Okay, so in the last 10 days, actually several people that are in here, we've been through quite a few things. But anyway, here's where we're going with this. And I'm kind of winging this tonight, so just bear with me because I put this together. I really haven't put a whole lot together, but I'm going to do something again here probably a little bit later or tomorrow. In the beginning, I think the first person to actually reveal that there might be a problem with the settlement was Roger Keenis. And he mentioned it like right after the mediators were announced, and someone else probably did too. But for the lack of me trying to figure out who was the first person, like Patient Zero in China, we're just going to run with Roger. So Roger went out and had a issue, and if somebody can message Roger and tell him to get his butt in here, that would be cool. But the way it progressed, it didn't really go anywhere. And here's kind of why. When the committee, which I'm not really 100% certain of because I don't ever remember it being called a committee, and I was kind of in there and trying to figure out what that is, but apparently the committee is essentially a group of people that were going to work on the mediation side, or to determine who was going to be the mediators, and also was pretty much made up of an internal group of about 3 or more attorneys. I could be 100% wrong on that, but I think I'm fairly close to somewhere in there. But the gist of the story is this: they chose 2 mediators. We've already went through this, so it's going to sound like old news, but there's actually quite a bit of new news in this. The mediators that were chosen, one was chosen from California. His last name is Messinger, and he is a mediator who works through a company called Signature Law, if I remember correctly. And out of Signature Law, he has done quite a few cases, has an impeccable record, and used to be the general counsel and I believe a vice president as well. If anyone knows, also correct me if I say something wrong, because I'm literally just winging it right now. I'm in a hotel. So that's where Messinger came from. So he seems to be pretty much a non-issue, other than there might be some very obscure connection to MGM as well. And I haven't been able to really find anything. So it's really not a lot. If you find something, let me know, and I'll try to work with it. Hey, John. Hey, Fawn. John and Fawn are here now. So then the other situation we have is this. When it was announced that Jennifer Togliatti was a mediator, bells and whistles kind of went off in a few people's heads. They said, wait, that Togliatti name sounds kind of familiar. And of course, the correlation was made between Jennifer Togliatti and George Togliatti, who was the vice president of MGM, which also had the head title of head of safety, security, and surveillance. Or I probably have the S's in the wrong number, but I do the S's in the wrong number in the morning anyway, so it's the same difference. Okay, good. You sent it, Roger. Thank you. So you have Jennifer Togliatti as the judge who stepped down from the bench and retired, and then took over this case in ARM, which I was just at recently. And so when she stepped down, did her retirement about a year early is what it seemed like, but in actual research, and tonight is for me to, I'm going to clarify a lot of the things that I've reported before. And I'm sorry for having to wing this and I'm just trying to get the information out. And I was dealing with a computer that was fighting with me. But what happened is this: Judge Togliatti was on the eighth court. She stepped down in her 19th year and apparently was not a year early. It was a planned retirement. And then she went over to a company called ARM. And at ARM, she is or has taken on the task of mediator. And she does mainly she works through settlement talks and things like that. She had the unofficial title of the mediator or settlement judge or whatever, whatever term they were using, to be able to handle extremely complex settlements that others could not seem to come to a settlement, and she was able to do it. And so she's actually, I can't really find anything wrong with it. A very good judge, and going through her record, anyone can do it. It's not rocket science, but go take a look at it, and you'll see she's actually pretty good. And so I have no beef with her at all, other than the appearance of something, which we'll get into in just a second. So you have that situation. Then, as she works at ARM, the one piece of the puzzle that I haven't fully put together yet is to get their internal documents of how they handle situations like we have. Like, I think everyone in here knows the situation that we have. If you don't, just kind of holler up, and I'm getting to that point here in a second. But you have a judge who is the mediator for the Las Vegas shooting settlement, or 1 October settlement, or Route 91 settlement. It's just depends on which term you use. And the settlement came to $800 million. Out of the 800 million, 750 million of that will be paid through insurance, effectively negating just about all of the money that MGM would have to have paid out of the pocket, except the tune of, say, $50 million. So out of the entire shooting and everything that happened and all of the claimants coming in, and there's roughly 4,400 claimants, and I'm going to say this a lot cleaner and fresher later in a minute, so just bear with me and I'll give you another rundown. But the 4,400 claimants that were on the case, about 2,500 of them were with one specific attorney. His name's Robert Eglett. And I have a little beef with him, and I'll explain why. It's not me personally with him. I don't have anything directly with him, but there's some issues there. And the situation is that Jennifer Togliatti has a father who is a vice president of MGM, head of security, or head of several, they're that security function inside the corporate ladder there. Man, I sound despondent tonight, but anyway, we'll get through it. So she's related, obviously, and we're not. And the automatic assumption in any code of ethic books that I've read is that this is a problem. So you have every single ethics book or law or code, and because every state says something different, because we're going by Nevada is what I'm going by right now, and I don't have anything on my screen, so I'm just kind of winging it. So each state has code of ethics that apply to judges, to attorneys, and basically how the court flow works and all of these different things, how jurors work, the whole nine yards. And you have to follow those. But when you go into settlement or mediation or arbitration, which is more appropriate, or so you have arbitration and mediation, you go into that, and then you're effectively in a system that is private. And a private system doesn't have to really work within the scope or the boundaries of, I don't want to say law, but it doesn't actually have to, follow the rule of law to the T because it's private. You've all the attorneys on both sides agree to whatever the terms are to govern how they're going to do this. And that's what happened. Now, there's been some question as to why wasn't the claimants given this information. Well, in my research and looking at this case and looking at, and not necessarily looking at everyone's documents, it's not like I went down and pulled 4,400 case files and looked through everybody's file and went, okay, because, just can't do that. But every single person that I have had contact with the exception of maybe two, all of their forms that were sent out to them, one being the disclosure of the mediators, seem to be there. Maybe not properly written. I think I would disagree with how they were written. And the honest opinion, my opinion is this, is that they should have come to some sort of consensus on how all of these disclosure forms will work. Now, if you're in here and you're in the background and you're bored to tears because you don't care about this particular subject, hang on, because it's going to get probably fun here in a few minutes, as it always does. But we got to muddle through this part. I got to get through it. Okay, so on the surface level, you have the judge who stepped down to take over a job as a mediator with ARM, and now she's doing that. She's picked to do the MGM case, which I personally do find kind of suspicious. I don't know if this was absolutely her first job when she went to ARM, but I believe it was, or very close to it. And that's going to make, because I'm going to be naturally looking at it going, okay, she leaves her Eighth Circuit Court, she goes to ARM, she becomes a mediator there, and her first job is given to her by her daddy. Thank you, Daddy. An $800 million case. That's what it would look like. If anyone's looking at this from the outside who's not going to dig into it, you see the dad is the vice president of MGM, the daughter is working for the settlement, and the two should not, communicate or do anything. And from all appearances, it doesn't seem like they have communicated. But it's still wrong. It still just looks wrong. And so to a lot of people, it is wrong on the surface value or the surface of it, and it may be wrong below it, but that part we don't know yet. So speculating that's not cool. I can't find anything so far between the daughter and the father that would make me think that something out of the ordinary was done or what have you. And the reason why that's important is because when you see something and it has the appearance of something, that doesn't mean that it is something. There's many times every one of us have looked at something and thought it was whatever, and come to find out it was completely not the same thing, and you have egglet on your face. Catch that pun. So that's that scenario. As it plays out even further, the conflict of interest, or the appearance of the conflict of interest, actually seems to get worse. It's the thing I did with Chris Jordan the other night on his show, Dudes and Beer, was but wait, there's more, because this is just ridiculous. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, if you wrote a script that basically said, hey, let's make a connection between these two or whatever, no one would believe it. No one in the right mind would say, okay, we're going to do a script where we're going to have a mass shooting event, a lot of people hurt, a lot of people died, and then during the settlement talks, we're going to plug in the daughter of the company that's being sued for the situation to begin with. And that just doesn't, no one would believe that. But that's exactly what happened. And if you would have told me 2 years ago that we would be at this point and some piece of information like this would come out and be as big as it is, I would not believe you either. But we're about to get to the problems that this has and the reason why there's going to be an ongoing issue. And I think my computer actually just caught up. I hope. And if it did, I can actually see things in the background. I can actually talk like actually reading and having a little, not a script. But anyway, so I'm talking to myself here. But what happened is during the very, very, very beginning of when the mediators were being chosen or looked at, it seems to me that not enough other possible mediators were looked at. Hey, Ryan, hope you're doing well. And so if you have that scenario where you have a judge who's retired and is now a mediator and comes out, and that person generally, in looking at the ethics books and everything, that person would see that they're an issue and they would generally just recuse themselves. That would just be an automatic. And that didn't happen in this case. And there might be a reason for that. But the problem is we don't know the reason. So whenever a lot of people speculate about something, it's really easy to say, oh man, that looks bad. That they must be talking. It's a father and a daughter. And so, yeah, I would think the same thing. But there are many situations where the father and the daughter may not communicate for whatever reason, or maybe they are so professional in their careers that they have learned to separate the situations between them. Obviously, one being an MGM and the other one being the judge, or being the mediator. And I'm holding my phone, so it's actually causing where I have to type everything with one hand. So bear with me. Does everyone kind of agree that really just looks bad? I mean, let's do a poll here. How many people in here just give a yay or nay think that judge should have recused herself automatically? It shouldn't have even went to a scenario where they would do any vote or anything like that. It should have just been an automatic thing. No, this is too much for anyone to handle, as far as anyone actually accepting that. That this would go forward. A settlement would go forward with a judge whose father is vice president of MGM. So, and I think there's a 20-second delay, so I won't be able to see the answers right away. But let me type this in here while it's doing that, and I'll be able to see it on this screen here. Because if you're ever trying to run a show and you do it on a phone, this thing splits it 3 different ways, and you can't actually see hardly anything. So we'll try that. Yeah. Okay. That's not saying anything. Let's go to the chat. There we go. Oh, I have to refresh the chat. Okay, so Jay says it stinks like old wet socks. And let me see if anyone. Okay, so does everyone pretty much agree that on the surface level it looks bad? And I would probably say, yeah, it kind of does. It would have to look bad. So now you move forward. And as you try to move forward and you try to keep this case together, because so much work was done. Somebody come in. Does that mean that's my screen? So much work was done. You don't want to unravel it and go back and what have you. And that's the thing I want to talk about right now. Hey, Roger. Hope you are well. So this past weekend, I was able to meet up with quite a few people and getting direct firsthand knowledge of some of the situations that people are going. And as we see it at the surface value, yes, there's a problem. The further I dig, honestly, it becomes less of a problem. And that goes against every grain that I have to say that, but so far that seems to be the case. And it's not a situation where anyone has to, change their opinions or thoughts because of mine. But, sometimes where there's smoke, there isn't fire. It might be a person smoking a vape. You never know. Um, but there's still an issue. And the issue is real simple. There may be a situation that comes out sometime down the road because it hasn't been found yet for whatever reason. And I don't want it to sound like I'm fear mongering or anything like that, but that is a real possibility. There could be a situation that none of the attorneys have been able to think of. And I can tell you of a couple of cases that I've been on or worked on or whatever, and one of which would blow your mind, that did happen. In fact, one of the largest bail amounts in U.S. history was a case I worked on, and right here in California. In fact, right here right down the road in Ontario, California. And the bail was $250 million. That's how much the bail on that case was. But there were so many weird circumstances, and people were jockeying things around. And of course, there's sticker shock when you see bail of $250 million. I don't have to tell you what happened. You guys can imagine of what a kind of a case that would be. But yes, I was on that. And I found a small piece of information that connected one person to another who didn't even have the same last names. And that person was instantly outed and ousted, I guess is a better word. So they pulled that out, and that person's gone, and that was the end of it. That case only involved, let me count how many people. Two people. The bail was $250 million. One person on the case had a situation where they had worked with another person and only overlapped by a few months, and they pulled that person. So how is it in Vegas that seems to be okay? I still have an issue with it. I don't think I will never not have an issue with it, no matter how many times I find that there's nothing there, but I understand it. So that's the way it is. So we move forward. And as we move forward, we look at it this way. As I said earlier, Roger, and thank you, Roger, for coming in here because I was giving you props earlier. Roger is the person who's yelled the loudest and the longest when it comes to this case about this particular situation. He made mention of it almost instantly. Like, I don't know, it had to be, it's like the same day. So Roger knew right away that the Togliatti connection was there, but for some reason or another, it didn't gain traction and what have you. And I'm not saying that it should have gained traction. I'm just saying that it just kind of like, hey, there's a problem, and it just kind of went away. And so I have a small concern about that. And the concern is this. You have six, and it's the same concern I had last week, was you have 60 different law firms or lawyers working on the case. And out of the 60, you have, I believe, 3 or so that are that inner circle in Las Vegas. And they're the ones pretty much pushing the deal for Togliatti, the daughter, to be the mediator because they've worked with her before. And not only that, Roger, can you say what other lawyer? You don't have to say the name of the lawyer, but there was a connection there. Okay, lawyers asked him to shut up. All right, I'm going to tell you too. Shut up. But there was some other kind of weird things that were said, and just inappropriate remarks made by a couple of attorneys this is stuff behind the scenes that wasn't done in public. This isn't like things that were read in newspapers and done on TV shows and stuff like this. This is just some oddball stuff that you run across in one of these investigations, and you look at it and you go, huh. And it's a situation where one of the attorneys stated, and I'm not going to say exactly what he stated, but we'll just say one of the attorneys stated that that, oh, the father and the daughter relationship, oh, that's no big deal. I even have this event that I do with them all the time. It's just a sporting event. And that to me is just, Roger said it really well, I think, the other day when I was there. He said, but so they tell you there's no conflict of interest one way, yet and then to make you feel better about the one conflict of interest, they tell you about another one. I mean, it just boggles the mind. Okay, so putting all of that away. So you've got, really, really quick. You've got a judge who's the daughter of the vice president, who's head of security. And I'll pull his exact title up here in a minute because I think there's some question about that. He's head of security, safety, and surveillance. And not only that, he's also a former FBI supervisory field agent. And he worked inside the Las Vegas FBI office for 20 some odd years. And no one thought to say, you know what, this is really just a big pill to get everyone to swallow. Let's go find another mediator because the connection is too much at the surface value. But the reality is different. The reality of all of this, which I know I'm going to get some crossed eyes, like Mike, you were singing a different tune the other day, but the reality is a little different. And a certain person's going, I told you so, but this is all the same stuff we said last week, saying it again. It's just that the scenario is that in 7 to 10 days of looking at this thing, there's not really any new information to say that there's a connection there. And that's not to say that I'm not going to keep looking for it, but that's the situation where we're at right now. And why the Scrub family? Yeah, I did find a couple incidences where it appears that there may have been a scrub. And what a scrub is sometimes in the intelligence community, you'll have a situation come up where a person will run for a certain office, like president or vice president or what have you. And then you'll have various things that are out there that's inaccurate information, what have you, and you go clean it up. You can do this yourself, actually, if you ever had to do it, but it'd be a pain in the butt. But I'm going to do a show one day to show you how to do that. So I've seen a couple things where it looks like, I think Roger saw it too. I think Roger saw it before I did. And just so everybody knows, Roger was the first with this information. Doug Papa was second with this information. Maybe someone else but as far as what I know, and then I'm the third guy to grab this ball. So it's like a football. Roger was running, and he's running around, and we're not trying to make a touchdown. We're just trying to show the ball to enough people to maybe get something done. So Roger goes around, and for one reason or another, nothing happened. And Doug Papa did the same thing, and for one reason or another, nothing happened. And here comes me, and I do the same thing, and really nothing much has happened. But we do have a reporter out there that is kind of, in my opinion, kind of overstepping boundaries a little bit. And here's why I'm saying that. If I came out here and told you guys, hey, all of you are represented and what have you, and if you're represented by a lawyer and people contact you to get information from you, then that's got to be handled in a very specific manner, especially when you have a situation where you're a television broadcaster or a nationwide broadcaster, what have you. And so, Katie, if you do listen to this, and that's who the person is, I'm finding a problem. I'm finding an issue because I'm having people contact me, not a whole lot, but enough to where I'm going, okay, there might be a problem there. And the two instances that are an issue that I would never have done is, and she may be very well legally in the right bounds and what have you, but I created the American Press Association a long time ago, and one of the stipulations inside of our little code of ethics that we had was that if someone's represented by an attorney, you talk to the attorney. You don't go out and talk directly to the client unless you know the attorney's cool with it. And here's why. You could be jeopardizing that person's case and not even know it. It could literally derail that person's case. I'm not saying that Katie has done this, and I don't. Again, she's a reporter. She can mention my name, and I'll mention hers because that's just how we do it. Reporter, report. I don't have a problem with that. So there's no defamation, no libel, whatever. This is exactly, my opinion, that they should be ultra scrutinizing any reporter who's actually going out and contacting survivors through means that may or may not be a gray area or just kind of frowned upon, or may be perfectly okay. But it just doesn't. There's a problem there too. So everywhere I'm going in this, I feel like there's a slight issue, but the issue doesn't change the original story. The original story is the same. Everything is exactly what I was talking about. Michelle says, ask Mike about that. Bad faith negotiation is Jesus scripts it. Yeah. Been honest, no worries. I'm trying to see what I'm catching up here. If you guys, I'm sorry if I sound muffled. If you guys want to ask a specific question directly to me, then just type it in all caps. That's all I ask. I'm gonna put on it. Boom, boom. See if that comes out there. And almost blocked you, Roger. That was close. Okay, so yeah, let's do what Roger's saying here. Okay, ask Mike about that. They use a scare tactic to frighten victims over money. Let me put CLs up on the board. And they more will come out together as it screws them, blah, blah, blah. This is okay. Roger's deception. Roger's been reading the Art of War. Okay, so let's just wrap all of that up into a big bow and then put it to the side for a second, and let's look at another set of ethics. If we're gonna be pulling ethics out on judges and former judges and former FBI agents and vice presidents of MGM, then we need to do it to ourselves, myself included. I don't think anyone in here, there's several survivors in here, can say that I have ever contacted you, other than us being friends and I contact you. But I don't think I have ever contacted a survivor out of the blue just to make a story or just to get to a story. The accepted way, in other words, the way to do this that's accepted, that there's no question or qualms about, is you do your story, you put it out there, and then if somebody contacts you, it's like you say, hey, here's a situation with this judge and former judge and blah blah blah, and George Togliatti is the father, and you just put that out there like I did, and then wait. And I had quite a few people contact me and saying, wait, what is this? And there it is. And then you go from there. And I understand the reasoning why this is done. And I'm not trying to throw Katie under the bus or whatever, or her, I guess her partner's name Bianca or whatever. But people are contacting people and they're saying things, and it's like, hey, I just got contacted by this person, and they're thinking either like, because I broke the story like the third time, if you want to call it that way, with Roger, then Doug Papa, then me, and people I've known, like the very first person I met in this entire thing came to me and said, hey, I just got contacted by blah 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 reporter, and that rubbed me wrong. It really did, and I don't like that. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying I didn't like it. I don't know if anyone else in here feels the same way, but I'm in a different position, and so I just have to. I'm letting you guys know what my feelings are, because we all talk and we all kind of know what each other's feelings are, but very rarely do I come out and say specifically what. Yeah, that's bullshit. I say it all the time. So anyway, I've got a little problem with that, and And as I look further into it, the more it seems to be bothering me. And the more I look into Jennifer Togliatti and George Togliatti, I'm starting to become fairly comfortable with them. And I probably shouldn't, but oddly enough, I am, because I'm not finding anything. Now, the moment I find something, that's going to flip. I'm going to assume that there's some level of connection there somewhere, because your mind would say there just has to be. But would it be in a negative light? Would it actually cause an issue? And there was another statement that was said where with Jennifer's father being, working for MGM, she might be more motivated to get the settlement done. I'm not going to say who said it, but yeah, that sounds like a problem. Let's see, as long, not whether she's biased, blah blah blah, and okay. So hopefully everything I've just said kind of makes sense. Now I'm not trying to convince any of you to change your minds, change your opinions, change anything you've got in the works, nothing like that. That's not the point. The point is that if you're going to go into this with because we all were shocked. All of us, our jaws were on the floor. We're all sitting there going, "Hey, this is wrong. This is, blah blah blah," and that's just not really the right way to do it. You have to, sit back, take a breath, get some rational thoughts going on in your head, and go, okay, let's actually piece this out and see if there's really a problem here. And there might not be a problem. It may have been the best possible way to get the solution done. But then I circle right back to the amount again. I circle right back to the amount, the $800 million. At $750 million is going to be covered by insurance. $50 million on the hook, $800 million, and it didn't change. How many in here have ever seen a negotiated settlement where the settlement amount stayed the same the whole time? Never changed. Never changed. I honestly cannot remember any time that I've seen that. Probably should turn my camera on so you guys can see how goofy I look right now. I'm actually wearing the shirt that I wore during the filming of the TV show called Man with a Van, and I'm wearing plaid, and I never wear plaid. Oh, I think my shirt is sexy. So you have that issue, and the problem is, and there's a person, I don't know if you guys know him, but he's the brother of that shooter guy, and his name's Eric, and I talk to him a lot. And one of the things he says that he does that I used to do that I kind of got away from doing is anytime he wants to make a decision, he takes a piece of paper, puts it down, makes like a T symbol on top of it. He has a line across the top, puts a line down the middle, and on one side he says reasons to do something, on the other side reasons not to do something. Sounds super simple. It sounds like something we've all heard before, nothing new, but he does it all the time. And so as you go down that list and you start putting things on okay, okay, what is the good reason for this? Well, she's a great judge. Okay, you got that. But then there's so many of the other reasons as to not to. So we're all fixated on the connection based on the relationship of her being the daughter, yeah, and the father being that high up on MGM. There's Jeff. There is center of gravity. Does Miss Togliatti own any shares of MGM? I did do a soft search and I did not see that. I did not see any shares, but that's not to say that she doesn't have them, because you can have different types of shares where it would show or not show. But if anyone in here knows that specific answer, let us know. It's been 18 months on complicated matters. Penn City Sitter, Cinti Sit, forget it. Yes, 8 months on this. Correct. Correct. Okay, so to quickly recap, if I have my other computer screen up, I was going to draw that thing like Eric does, and just go down the list. And the very instant, if I was that judge, I would walk out and say, "Hey guys, there's any lawyer and any judge, anyone in the judicial system at all would look at this and instantly go, There's a problem. And I remember the day that a certain woman who's very dear to me, Catherine Lombardo, got that information. And I did not myself look at it at the time. I don't know what I was doing at the time, but whatever it was, this did not seem to be a big issue for me back then, but it was big for her. Or not huge, but it was something that irked. Um, and I can't tell the story. Some of you have heard it, but I can't tell the story when I was sitting in the other room and some of the things she said. But it was a problem. Of course, I actually thought she was yelling about me because it sounded pretty bad. Um, yeah, but Roger, the thing was they did actually have an issue with it. I know, obviously, a lot of the attorneys in this case, and in talking to them, the way it's come out is that yeah, there was an issue, but what happened is that that issue was resolved by a core group of people. And that core group of people involved Robert Eglett. I can't remember the other. There's two more. There's one in California. There's one out there. But basically, Eglett was the lead guy that wanted to keep her on. I'm not. And again, I'm not saying that she shouldn't have been. I honestly, I can't see a reason why she shouldn't be, other than the fact that she's related. Because on paper she's awesome, and in practice she's awesome. So here's where I'm at right now, just to get in that shell and get it out of the way. I've labored this long enough. It's like, Mike, spit it out. Okay, I'm going to spit it out. At this point in time, I see no reason to officially put my nomination, whatever my 2 cents is worth in any of this, behind the fact that she was the daughter of the vice president. All I can say is that it looks bad. All I can say is that in most instances, in virtually every instance I've ever seen, that person would automatically recuse themselves and just pull from the case, or some other scenario would play out, whatever it is. But for the most part, it would not have gone forward. But in this case, it did. Now you have to come back and go, here's the extenuating circumstances. Because she's damn good. And because the pool of people to pull from is not big. You think of Las Vegas, you think of it being a big city, but it's a big little city. But they really didn't have a lot to pull from. So I can't really get behind the Togliatti issue as heavy as I thought I was able to do. And that's where I'm at the moment. So just letting you guys know, that's kind of where I'm at. But I'm going to keep digging, and I'm not going to keep digging just to look for dirt. I'm going to keep digging because there's probably dirt. Because so far, almost everywhere I've looked before there is, but I've looked into this and I can't seem to find it. And again, if Katie, if you hear this, I don't mean to make it sound like I'm throwing you under the bus. That's not the intent. I will tell you this straight up. Stop contacting survivors. Just do this the right way. In my opinion, what you're doing, or the way you're doing it, is kind of rubbing some feathers wrong, and you're doing it with people that are have gone through a lot. And so I would say, I'm not your boss. I'm nobody to you. I mean, that you and Bianca do what you got to do, and I would like this story to go national myself, so that maybe if it is an issue, maybe somebody go, oh yeah, that's right. I thought about that when they happened. And I have this folder here that shows that 900,000 shares were transferred that day between the father and the daughter. I mean, if you found some smoking guns like that, then that would really make this stick. But there's just not a lot, because just like Roger just said, they don't communicate. There seems to be something there that should be there, that's not, like a father-daughter relationship where father-daughter communicate, but whatever it is, maybe like myself and some others, you got an ex that is just whatever. Who knows? Who knows what the reason is? Who cares? It really doesn't really mean a hill of beans. But what does mean a hill of beans is that I can honestly say that I cannot see a reason why she shouldn't have been the settlement coordinator or arbitrator, or whatever they call it, other than the fact of from the appearance, it looks bad. That's it. So I'm kind of backpedaling a little bit, but yeah, that's it, because this is kind of getting a little bit out of hand. But at the same time, everyone that has a reason to go forward, the reason is still the same and everything. But no one should think about your settlement being unwound and what have you. It is a very remote possibility, like almost impossible. So I don't see it happening. And the effect that we could have with 13 people in here right now is really just not going to do something that's going to make a big difference at this level with what we're doing. But at the same time, we still have issues. So let's talk about the bullets in the bathroom. Those bullets were planted there. You had some SWAT guys that were down shooting the night, during the night, and they swiped up a lot of those bullets, or basically casings, and put them in their pockets. And when they got in room 134, they tossed them all over the place. How's that? I bet that's almost exactly what you're thinking, because I'm psychic. No, me and Roger's already talked about that. That's why I'm just being facetious. Sorry, Michelle, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm really not. And the the thought is this: you and I have talked extensively about this, and I get other people contact me too. I've got one person that I will never be his friend again because of this. So I lost a really good friend. Actually, I didn't lose a good friend. I got rid of somebody that probably should have never been my friend to begin with. So yeah, more power to me on that one. But the scenario is this: I've got friends that contact me. They say, blah, blah, blah. Hey, is this really a situation where I need to be doing something? And I look at them and I have to tell the truth. The truth is, I don't. At last week, I'd say, yeah, it kind of looks like it's bad. Now I can't say it's the same thing. So for the people that are in here right now that I've talked extensively about, I'm telling you straight up, I have looked, and tonight and today I went through a whole bunch of paperwork looking for something, looking for other cases that are similar, and to look for something that would cause me to, you know, go against every rational bone in my body, because I only deal in facts. That's it. If I can't see a connection, even though it may look like something, I am not going to put the two and two together and make it something that it's not. Can't do it. But we're still dealing with a group or like a company that is bad. And we're dealing with an oddball attorney who, for some reason, did a complete 180 in this case. And, keep in mind, he said that the MGM and is the most reprehensible company he's ever seen, and all these other things. And as it comes down to it, we get down to the settlement part, and he does a complete flip. We know how that happens, or at least I think I know. Let's see. Who was threatening you, Roger? Roger, you want to come on and talk? Michelle, you too, if you want. CL, you can come on. Hell, I'll just put it out there, and if you want to come on, you come on. Hopefully, some of the old crew. I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna make them think that they're in my mind right now, because I'm actually having a. I'm having the guys. I'm having a. I had the worst week and the best week of the last 3 years this week. All right, so I'm gonna put this out there, and whoever wants to hop in, hop in. We can talk. And sorry for taking over the show for the first hour, and you had to sit through all that crap. So if you want to come in, hit that and come on in, and I'll pop you in there. Let's see here. Scroll back here. Jeff Scott. So I just put the link in there. If anyone wants to come in, you are welcome to. Jeff says, sorry, I'm late. I was trying to solve a music production Mac OS FL Studio native plugin being able to be used and Ableton Live problem and failed. Damn it, Jeff. You're not supposed to do that. Everything's supposed to be that you did it. Actually, Jeff, if the next wait, if you have a Mac, I wouldn't be able to do this. I was going to say, if you ever brought your computer over, I could go through a bunch of stuff that I've got. So is anybody going to come in here? There's one. Hey, I predicted it would be this guy.
What's up,
How you doing, buddy? How you doing, man? It's been a crazy week.
Just watching another movie that they should probably.
What movie are you watching? Or your
Denzel Washington? CIA type shit.
Oh, I've never heard of the CIA. Is that a famous place? Just for the record, I'm going to tell the story as to how I got that phone number, because several people in here know I have it. I have a phone number that used to belong apparently to the CIA's SAD unit, which is a Special Activities Division, and I got that because they were doing recruiting, and it was right across the street from where I was anyway. And so I walked over there at the end of it, and they had all of these electronic phones that were sitting on these tables. And God, there's a name for the tent. There's a tent that had a name, and this is right across from CIA headquarters in that recruiting area that they have over there. And so as I went over there, each desk had a different department inside the CIA that they actually controlled. And I used to be a liaison, and I'd go back and forth from CIA to NSA to FBI or wherever, just moving documents around and explaining things. It's a lot more in depth than that, but I'm just going to keep it sugar-coated. But this one phone was sitting on this one desk, and I kept looking at it because it had a sad face on it, like an upside down smiley thing, and it said SAD. And at the time, I wasn't even thinking of SAD. I just liked the damn phone, and the phone number that was associated with it was that number, and I've had it since that day. So if anyone wants to know, that's why I've got that number, and it's not because I'm a disinfo agent or any of that other crap that gets said out there. That's the actual answer. All right, Roger. So what have you, since I've seen you or we talked the other day, has anything different come about that you want to talk about, or if you can talk about?
Well, yeah, I'll cover something real quick because people need to use some common sense here, and I think they'll understand where I'm going with it. So the rounds that were found in that bathroom, right? You got a handful of rounds on the ground, right? There's no bullet. There's no reports of bullet holes anywhere in there. So who carries around rounds? Terrorists don't pick up their rounds and go drop them in a bathroom. Somebody else dropped those rounds in there to make it look like.
When you're talking about rounds, something or casings?
The casings, the shell casings.
Okay.
So check this out. The only time you pick up brass like that is after you're coming off a range. Nobody walks around with spent shell casings in their pocket and drops them off. Terrorists don't shoot AKs and AR-15s and then pick up their rounds afterward and go drop them off in a bathroom. Now, who works off duty for all these events and off duty hours? LVMPD officers. Mm-hmm. Where was the FBI SWAT? Where was the LVMPD SWAT team? They were coming off a range, I believe. And but then you also, when you start looking at that, then you talk about the stampede where there were rounds that went off about an hour after Paddock was already basically dead at one of the hotels, and there was a stampede, right? So the police up there and they go in there and they can't find nobody. Well, I wonder why. What does that do? It muddies the damn water. So you think it's a terrorist attack? Terrorists don't pick up freaking shells and go dump them off in a pile in a bathroom. There's no bullet holes. So why would they be in a bathroom? Somebody placed them there to muddy the damn waters. And these people need to start answering for this shit. Plain and simple. They think everybody's stupid. They're hiding film. They don't want discovery. And the simple fact of the matter is that if the lawyers came out with a 2014 Kier and Dunbar case, but here's the fact. Not one of them got on TV and said, hey, you know what? 2007 New York hotel owned by MGM Properties. There was a mass shooting. 4 people got shot. Oh, one of those victims was a young blonde girl that took us all the way to court, specifically on security failures and not having metal detectors. They got on, their security got on the witness stand and testified to the same communication problems they had this time around. They were sued for the same thing. Now, because they won on a technicality of foreseeability, they screwed her. And so what did I know? I knew that these guys were not going to pay us. They didn't want to pay us because they didn't even want to take care of one girl. They didn't even refund her a hotel stay. So then the Supreme Court came out when they tried the Safety Act crap. The Nevada State Supreme Court under Humphreys came back and said foreseeability is no longer a factor. And they're like, holy crap. So they came up with the Safety Act and they were trying to use CSC's Safety Act. But that didn't work because the shooting didn't actually happen on the festival grounds. The shooting came from their hotel that they were negligent in security. And the simple fact of the matter is they don't want to spend money on security because it's not profitable. It's an expense. And they use the excuse that, well, it'll impede traffic. It'll stop the Vegas vibe. Bullshit. That is bullshit. I've sent them, and this has been out for years. There is non-invasive technology that will not stop, that alerts their security if a guy walks in with a gun. You're not worried about the guy that's got a concealed weapons permit or the undercover law enforcement that walks in. You're worried about the guy that's walking in with a bag full of 23 guns and ammo, 23 bags full of ammo or bombs, because you change the equation from gun to bomb and they still wouldn't have stopped him. Okay. So they're just full of shit. These people, it's not that nobody wants to come back to Vegas or anything else. And I'm not trying to scare people, but they're throwing stones from a glass house and it's all deception. They need to fix it. Okay. Plain and simple. That's why I'm here.
I agree with most of that. I think there's one part you were saying about they could walk in and they could or could not be detected. There's only one.
The technology that's out now is not TSA style. When you walk in the door, they're not patting you down. It's X-ray. It doesn't harm you. It's called PAT scan. They can tell whether you got keys on you, a knife on you, a gun, or if you got a rifle in your bag. We're not worried about the single guy with a handgun.
Yeah, well, like at the Wynn, the rotating doors that you have when you walk in, those magnetometers.
Yeah, they got magnetometers. But what about MGM? Obviously, they didn't have them.
Let's get Michelle in here because it's the first time she's been in, and me and you we'll probably do a whole show on this stuff too. Because I'm going to keep it kind of in the subject matter.
Can I leave one last thing and I'll stop? One last thing. Hey, you had 2007 incident. You had 2014 incident. How many times does it take before they get it through their fucking head that this can happen again and they're bullshitting people? Instead of just spending the damn money. See, we wouldn't be going through any of this shit had they just made a fair deal, said, hey, we fucked up. We made a mistake. We're going to fix security. We're going to take care of these families. We're going to do an above board deal. That's not what happened. That's not what occurred. They were trying not to get sued by their shareholders. They were trying to make sure that it stayed under the insurance cap. And who did it screw? The lawyers walked away with money. They saved a whole hell of a lot of money. And we all got screwed for PTSD cases because we didn't matter to them. Just like every other mass shooting, and eventually that shit's going to stop, and it's going to stop now because otherwise I'm going to walk into a court and I'm going to bury them with the truth. That's why they don't want to talk about why didn't the lawyers come out with my video? They know it's legit. They were using it to get them to the drawing board and said, you know what, fuck it, we're going to walk away, we're going to make a bunch of money and nobody will be the wiser. I'm telling them no. And the more families that get behind me and say no, it's not just about the money, because nothing changed in security. They won't even fucking issue an apology. I mean, how sad is that? Right. No changes in security, no apology. And they say that can't be negotiated. Well, we can't force them to change this. Yes, the hell we can. That's, court cases are what sets precedent for laws to be written based on a court case. They could have negotiated that. The festival grounds, none of that was ever mentioned in any of my paperwork.
All right,
So
Roger,
what is they
let's
negotiate?
get Michelle in for a minute. Hang on just a second. Because you and I are going to go. We're going to have that whole subject matter. You and I can do a whole show on that. How you doing, girl?
Good.
All right.
I actually felt like really super empowered, and now I'm like, I'm feeling like Debbie Downer.
No, you shouldn't. I mean, anything that if it's is somebody tapping on their
No,
strings?
that's okay. That was probably me. I don't know how.
Oh, okay.
Maybe Eaglet's trying to hop in.
Eaglet's trying to cop in.
It was a joke, Mike. I got you.
I know, I'm messing with you. I would have a blast if he did. Let's see here. Somebody just said something to me.
I don't know why my phone's popping.
Okay. It could be that your sound. You may have two things that are on with the same broadcast, or what have you. So anyway, okay. So, so you're feeling kind of down about.
I'm feeling like you're not feeling confident about what's going on, and
Well, I'm confident. Well, I can't say I'm confident that there's a connection between the daughter and the father, other than the fact that they're the daughter and the father. I can't say. I would hope that by this point I would have is whoever.
Okay,
I don't know if anybody. Roger, is that you? Okay, it probably was him.
I had my I had my mic muted.
Oh, okay. I don't. And maybe it's me. I don't even know. So anyway, what I'm getting at is if anyone went back and watched the original the night that I went live the first time, where it was me, Roger, and Doug Papa, and then some other guy, I don't know who it was, came on. So the situation is this: when I came in, I said, "Hey, here's what it looks like." I'm not, and I kept saying the same thing over again. I'm not saying that there is this. I'm not saying there's that, but I am saying that it looks bad. But the further I got into it, I'm sitting there, I'm going through every single connection. I'm using every magical search queries that I do. I just do off the top of my weird searches in Google and some other search engines that allow me to find things really fast. And I have not been able to find anything. That's not to say that there's nothing there. It just means I don't want someone to see this and then say, I'm going to undo, this whole case, meaning for themselves. They're not going to be able to undo the settlement, but a person doing themselves. I'm not talking about you, Michelle, because you're a done deal anyway. But the thing is,
real quick.
Yeah, where's that coming from?
Hey, they don't have to undo the case. I mean, some people need to be held accountable. They don't have to undo it. MGM and the lawyers can step forward and do the right damn thing for once, since they didn't do it the first go around and they thought nobody would be the wiser. They can do what's right here. They've been given that option. Why don't they want one guy? As far as I know, I'm the only guy. There might be somebody else, I don't know. But as far as I know, I'm the only guy that didn't settle. So what are they so afraid of? They've already told me they're gonna stretch this out to make it millions of dollars. They're gonna stretch it out for 10, 20 years. They're gonna appeal. No matter what you do, you're not gonna get your day in court. What are they so afraid of? That's the question. And why are they so afraid of one guy? What are they so afraid of this going to trial?
I think if you break this down into the attorney groups, meaning you have that one inner core group, and then you have the outer core group, and then there might be some other way to subdivide it, but basically you got the inner core and the outer core, and the inner core seems to be the ones that are kind of pushing things through, which normally happens in a case like this when you have people that live in other states, and everybody's trying to gang these cases together so that it makes more sense. And I get that part.
Check this
out. The problem I'm having
Check this out. Check this out. My lawyer made it sound like this was all common knowledge. Oh, by the way, I played tennis with her on her mixed doubles team. My partner is her husband practices medicine with her husband, this and that. This is common knowledge. That's how they try to make it sound like it's common knowledge, and they downplay it. But the simple fact of the matter is, do you think somebody in Chicago, New York, that's got their lawyer, their local attorney in California. You think they know the local connections going on there? And that's the whole fucking problem. That's what Paddock was pointing out. They're cheating, the connections, the mob, basically. You know, they want to scare people with this mob shit. They're not gangsters. They don't know what fucking gangsters are because gangsters wouldn't treat people like this. They at least had more class. At least if they were going to walk up and whack you, they would do it to your face. These guys go behind your back and push paper.
Right.
That's what they do. They're cowards. Every fucking one of them.
All right. Let you guys know what I'm doing from a technical standpoint. I'm clicking your mute button on and off just to see where it's coming from. And it's coming. Michelle, is coming from yours. So when you're if you don't leave. That's not what I'm saying. It's just I'm letting you know that if you're not talking, I'll mute you temporarily. But then when I see that you're about to talk, I'll unmute you. That way the background noise isn't coming out. It's like somebody's tapping on it. It's almost like somebody's typing messages. That's all. So go ahead,
That's
Todd,
kind
and
of scary.
cover what we're talking about.
Oh, you want me to jump in now?
Yeah, by all means.
Okay. So I can't see comments right now. So how do I do that? Because I am tech dummy.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing because you're on a phone too. And on that,
okay.
it's doing that.
Okay. So
go ahead.
The first thing I want to say, I give two pinches of shit if you find anything, because that's just icing on the cake. As far as I'm concerned, no. And every normal person that I talk to, like I went to my post office today and I said, hey, look, this might be a situation. You might have these people coming, da-da-da-da-da. And I just told them just about the Togliattis. And as soon as I just said that, their mouth dropped. So I'm not worried. I mean, if we are able to find what you're looking for, all that will completely seal the deal.
Of course.
Yeah. And that's the part that we need to find. But I was feeling a little bit nervous because you're like, oh, this isn't what I believe now. I was just getting like a bad, I was like, oh my God, what have I done? Type of thing. Because I don't know if everybody knows I'm going to be on, and it's okay to say it because it's coming out. I'm the one that's going to be on NBC News, and I'm basically the whistleblower. So there it is.
And there's nothing wrong with it. What you blew the whistle on is still the same problem.
I know, no matter how you cut it.
Yeah, no matter, and I'm still saying the same thing. I don't care who I'm talking to, whether it's an attorney going, you're an idiot, or somebody saying blah blah blah, or someone saying the opposite. And that there's obviously smoke, there's fire, and everywhere in the middle. But from an investigative standpoint,
okay,
what is that? From an investigative standpoint, let me real quick. From an investigative standpoint, this is where I have to look at it. If I walk into a room and I see a computer sitting on a desk and it's on fire and the something else is going on, I'm not going to, and I look at the computer and I see the batteries leaking out and stuff like this, I'm going to assume, or I'm going to look at it and go, wow, it looks like the battery exploded and caught the computer on fire. But who's to say that someone didn't come in and pour some gas on the laptop or whatever and started the fire? And the reason why I bring that up as an analogy, which is a stupid one, but it's because that actually happened. I was actually trying to learn different types of forensics, and one of the situations that we saw was just that. Out of 23 people, we were doing the air taser instructor course, and they were doing some forensic thing from Safari. I don't know if you know what Safari is, but that's who makes the gunshot residue kits and all that stuff. So they were doing that, and they were doing like a demonstration. They said, okay, just from someone who's not gone through a forensics class, go in and tell us what started this fire. And a whole bunch, almost everybody that went in there looked, and they saw the battery was leaking and something else was going on, and the screen had caught fire from the backside, which is where the battery would be anyway, and all of these different things pointed to that. But that wasn't what it was. And what happened was somebody literally went in there and took a cap full of gas and put it in a certain area and lit it up. and that's what get on fire. Now that's a stupid analogy, but every single person, because everybody did this on their own, went in and made the same assessment, except one.
I'll tell you this real quick, Mike.
Huh.
At the end of the day, the lawyers and MGM only have to blame themselves. MGM failed in security knowingly because they tried to save money.
Yeah.
The lawyers should have been up front. Why didn't we ever even get an option to say, hey, $800 million is not even close? Because Robert Eglett said it publicly, not even close. So what changed? They have nobody to blame but themselves. They thought that they were going to get away with it, and I threw a fucking monkey wrench in their plans, both of them, because they even teamed up with the lawyers to, oh, hey, we'll represent you. No, I said, no, I'm making accusations against you now. That would be a conflict of interest. There needs to be an outside neutral party that is actually a neutral party that's not tied to MGM and its tentacles that reach all across this world. And from media to law enforcement to lawyers to musicians to Hollywood movie stars, somebody needs to come in and take a look at this, meaning the FBI. And I know that they work a lot slower, due diligence.
And they screwed up too.
Well, yeah, because if you go back to what I've been saying from the whole time, that he was a copycat and he copied a movie that's also about taking down the mob and embarrassing the FBI. And an amateur, Marine Corps CI guy, figured this shit out before they did. And so it's a little embarrassing. Hey, there's good cops, there's bad lawyers, there's good lawyers. Everybody in every profession, you have good and bad. But the good guys need to come in. I know it. I understand it takes longer, and they've got to do their due diligence and everything else. But we're going on 3 years now. They're still hiding video. They went in and edited video, timestamps, and all that shit. Why don't they want discovery? Because it shows the full liability of what really occurred, and they don't want the truth to come out because it will bankrupt them. Because not because of what Stephen Paddock did that night, but because what they've done afterward. I don't. Somebody robs my house. That doesn't mean I get to go rob a bank and walk away and blame it on the guy that robbed my house. You know what I'm saying? People still go to jail.
I was just going to do that.
People still go to jail.
I know. Okay. Pandemic brought up a point here. It says before the settlement, the judge should have been vetted by professionals, and that was a big mistake. In all actuality, the judge was vetted and had been vetted many times before, and that's kind of where we're going with this. In that they were already familiar with this judge, they already like this judge. This judge seems to be the go-to judge for MGM or for cases that involved MGM and in some other instances too. But that is the direction I started going in. I haven't found anything yet, but as I look, I see some things that look kind of a little off, whatever. But if you look at any number of cases with this number of variables, it's going to look that way. But at the same time, Las Vegas is a large city, but it's a small city. Okay. So there's a lot of things going on. What makes it large is the amount of money that goes through there and the amount of tourists that go through there. But the city itself is actually fairly small. And
we'll check this out. Let's talk about the other judge real quick. All they said that he was a CEO or a top executive for Disney, right? They don't really give any information on him.
He was a general counsel for Disney, and also a high-end executive from on the board and stuff. So yeah.
Well, I did some digging a long time ago before anybody was really looking at any of this stuff. Did some digging, and I don't know the judge. I don't know either one of these judges. I don't know them personally. Never met them. They might be good people, but I can tell you that I pulled up that he's had a past incident in his past where he was accused of some inappropriate behavior. So, I mean, I don't know, but from what I've read, he seemed to understand the fiduciary duties owed by MGM executives and directors to MGMRI's shareholders. So it sounds to me like Jennifer Togliatti's got a reason to make sure this case goes through super fast, which it did, in comparison to the complex issues of City Center that took 18 months because it was so complex and touchy. I guess building materials is more touchy than 59 lives and 800 wounded. So at the end of the day, they were trying to find a way so that they wouldn't get sued by their shareholders. They could get some insurance money to cover it. No one would be the wiser on the video. It would never come out. We pay off the top families. We all walk away with a bunch of money. MGM saves a bunch of money. And the PTSD victims, which is the vast majority of us, get screwed. That's what it boils down to. And they had a fiduciary duty to each and every client, not just the top cases, to make sure that they got fair compensation for it. Long-term care. And that is not what occurred here. So they need to answer for this stuff in a court of law. But I don't have to beat them in court. By the time I get to court, they're already going to be defeated because the public's going to know what they did. And all of this, when you look at it in totality, all of it looks really, really bad when you add it all up because it's a whole bunch of, well, it doesn't look so bad here. It doesn't look so bad here. It doesn't look so bad here. Well, you look at it all combined. Step back and take a look at it. All together, it looks pretty damn bad.
Absolutely.
Plain and simple.
On the surface and the subsurface. The only point.
And as soon as you start looking into those details,
I want to say something real quick is that I don't want to upset anybody, especially Michelle. I don't want anybody upset, and I understand that sometimes in this business you just have to come out and say, because a lot of people look towards different. They have like their favorite investigator. Like it could be Morphonius, or it could be this guy, it could be Jason Goodman, God help you, or John Cullen, God help you. And that's an atheist saying that. So you have these scenarios that play out where people say, okay, this person kind of thinks the way I do. I'm going to follow them, and then you're going down a path because someone thinks the way you do. But when you get into various other larger details in the legal structure and what have you, you don't really want a cacophony of people in the same room all singing the same tune, and then you're really not going to get a lot of advancement done because you're not going to have different ideas to do something. Everybody will be stuck at the same thing. And in this case, I don't want anyone to follow me because they, for whatever reason, I don't want someone to follow me because they think I'm going to go a certain direction, because I will flip in a heartbeat if I'm going the wrong way. And I did not see that in a lot of other people. I'm not putting myself on a pedestal, but if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And if I'm right, I did the same thing. I remember there was one time you found you were going one direction, and then I asked you about it like a month later, and you went, yeah, that didn't pan out. Done with that, which means you actually adjusted. And some people don't. They get on something, they keep going down that path, and the hell and high water if he's going to change their opinion or whatever, and that's fine. But not a person that's making decisions that are going to affect the outcome of the case or the settlement, or the dollar amounts, or how things are going to be handled, stuff like this. And that's where I feel it's important that science and facts and all this stuff goes into it. And everyone does the same thing. We all see something the first time. The lawyers did it. When they first heard this information, they did knee-jerk reactions, and they were like, wait, what? And they went against it. And then they all kind of went for it because they kind of looked at some other options.
Because they were already screwed. They were screwed. So hold on, check this out. So the top lawyers selected her, right?
Done. They didn't have to do anything. It's $800 million. There's some in my mind, and I can't prove it, not yet, but in my mind, there was some backroom negotiation done somewhere saying, look, if you guys want to sell through this, we will, because the amount didn't change. That's your smoking gun right there, is the damn dollar amount. And
check this out.
Yeah.
Check this out. So I'm the one that found out the dollar amount before everybody else. I went to the lawyers. They asked me to shut up. I was raising holy hell because I said that's not going to be enough. I kind of broke down the simple math of injuries and average death cases. And I mean, it flexes up and down, but I had a kind of a general knowledge. And I said, look, I've done research on past mass shootings and how much people would get, which is usually somewhere in the $25,000 range at the minimum. on average, which we got much less than that for most of us. But here, check this out. Not one time in the last year and a half, not in the last year and a half, have I heard one lawyer tell me one reason why we should go to court. I've heard every reason why we shouldn't go to court. At the end of the day, this was about money. Egglet and the local attorneys, they decided, hey, Jennifer Togliatti is going to be the judge. Outside people went along with it, the outside lawyers. And then once I brought it up and they go, yeah, like you just said, Mike, they said, oh shit, yeah, that doesn't look right. And they got convinced to go along with it. Why? Because at that point, there was already a breach of fiduciary duties because she had a conflict of interest. They basically tied their hands behind their back as lawyers. They should have stood up and said, no, hell no, we object to this. But at that point, it's don't screw this up, and you're on the hook, and you could be sued for fiduciary breaches because of what Egglet and the top tier groups decided. So,
Right.
you know, that's what's going on. It's a bunch of manipulations going on, and some of the lawyers were probably manipulated into it. And at that point, they knew they were kind of screwed or could be screwed, and it would look bad. So they just all went along to get along.
Right.
You know, that's the problem with what's going on.
That from like a possibility standpoint, and I get that. I can't go forward myself because I operate differently. I will not move forward on something unless I know either A, it's truly pointing me that direction, or B, that it's already factually correct, and that has to be it. So now I go to the next step and just keep going until I can vet it and get it peer reviewed, all these different things. Because you remember everybody remember Rodney Peterson? Remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I know remember. So a lot of people remember him, and I was I can't tell you how I got that. Let's just say that screw it, I don't care anymore. We're past that point. The lawyers gave me that in the case. Rodney didn't come to me. A lot of people thought, well, you fell for Rodney's crap. No, I didn't. A lawyer in this case came to me and said, hey, can you check this guy out and see if there's anything to this? That's what happened. So I got that. I looked at it, and I read that. I read the thing that he read to the thing that Rodney wrote went to all the lawyers. So if anyone's speculating on what lawyer it was, you can stop. So the lawyer came to me and said, hey, go check this out if you can, and then let me know what you think, because I already had a working theory about him possibly being autistic. Well, Rodney's autistic.
Yes.
So, yeah, he is. So Rodney's autistic. I was thinking Stephen Paddock was autistic, and because of the mannerisms and some of the things. So, and Rodney specifically said, an autistic with the same spectrum that I have can see another one like it's like putting luminol in something. It's like they see each other, and I still to this day think that Stephen Paddock had some form of autism or something similar to that.
Check this out, Mike. The name of the movie, the movie is about autism.
Yeah,
Stephen Paddock hadn't bought weapons for 8 years. He for almost 8 years. So actually, let's go back because this needs to be clarified for the family so they know the actual truth. 1 October 2015, a kid named Christopher Mercer went and shot up a school in Oregon at Umpqua College. He used a .38 Smith & Wesson that's almost nearly identical to Stephen Paddock's, the only handgun he brought with him. That same date, 2 years earlier, Stephen Paddock started buying rifles on October 2nd, 2016. The movie, the trailers were already coming out for it. The movie came out the same month he started buying all the damn rifles. He copied the timeline in the movie. It's got a father-like figure that looks almost identical to Stephen Paddock's father as he would remember him at 7 years old. It's about dogs. It has a picture in it where dogs are cheating, playing poker. It also is about taking down the mob and a corrupt CEO while helping the FBI, but kind of embarrassing them along the way. It's got a picture of a machine gun shooting out pointed out the damn window. Where do you think he got the idea from? At the end of the movie, the theme of it is, hey, maybe we're looking at mental health all wrong. It's going to take old-fashioned police work to solve this case. Duh. He broke up the timeline into two 10-minute segments because his plan got broken up because I think he was trying to take down a helicopter. And then he shot at the tanks. That would have channeled the crowd. He couldn't go left, couldn't go right, and all he had was pavement. Neither one of them worked out because he wasn't as smart as he thought he was. He didn't have technical abilities. But the FBI doesn't want this coming out because they don't want copycats. And I understand that. But we've already had other mass shootings.
But whenever you say something that you're saying it as factual, just be real careful with it. Because
I'm pretty on point on this one because I've been saying it from day one. The lawyers know it. The FBI knows it. I pretty much wrote his damn profile. I mean, I sent it to the FBI within a month.
Right when you said that he hadn't bought a gun in 8 years,
he bought one handgun. He bought one handgun.
He bought 33 guns in the last 12 months. The last 12 months, he bought 33 guns. So I'm not.
According to the records that I saw that were produced by the LVMPD, he bought one handgun about 3-4 months prior to buying the rifles. But he started buying all the rifles October 2nd moving forward.
Okay, well,
and the only handgun he brought with him was a .38 Smith & Wesson that's identical to one of the weapons the kid carried that had Asperger's, autism. The movie's about Asperger's, narcissism, which he was a very much a narcissist, is also very closely linked to autism. He's an accountant. The movie's called The Accountant. He's a numbers guy. Most savants, mathematicians, numbers people. I mean, this is not a far stretch.
Right. Yeah, and we're on the exact same page with that because he had to have, and he exhibited those traits. And I even discussed it with Eric at length, saying, "Look, Eric knew the direction I was going, and we were trying to me and Eric were trying to figure out if Paddock had met Peterson." So. And we couldn't put those dates together because he was there on June 26th of whatever year it was, 2016. And I'm sure Peterson's watching this tonight. You can email me. But I believe it was June 26th of 2016 is when we were able to vet that Peterson was there, but we weren't able to put Paddock there. We put him 3 days previous, but not at Excalibur. He wasn't even in the city. So that's where that's where his thing kind of, it didn't unravel because we thought he was lying. It didn't unravel because we couldn't put all this together. It just became a non-issue because there was no way we could go forward with that information with that shoddy of evidence that we had to piece it together. Everything he said was fine up until one point. There was one particular thing that Peterson said that Eric immediately said, "That's not my brother." And
check this out.
That he raised his voice in the middle of the Excalibur and said something about the windows. And Steve, and from the people I've talked to too, Steve just doesn't raise his voice. He just never does. But that's not to say that he didn't that day. There could be any circumstance that could happen. So, but without being able to prove it. The only thing about the weapons is that there's the form. I used to be a firearms dealer. So the form is called the 4473. It's the yellow form you fill out when you buy a firearm. That document is sent in. Back then, or back when I was doing it, you would call it in. You'd actually pick up the phone, call it in. You punch the number of the form, and blip blip blip, and you put the person's data into the system. Now, obviously, it's quite a bit different. But the weapons that were bought in the previous 12 months, meaning October 1 was 33. But if you only went back another 2 or 3 months, the number went up again. But he had 47 guns in total. The reason why I know so much about the guns is, I'll announce it right now. This is new information for everybody. The weapons were actually purchased by a guy who wrote a check for $60,000, and we agreed to destroy the guns. Okay, the guy bought the guns, saying, "Okay, I'll buy you the guns, and but the stipulation is they're destroyed." Okay, and Eric said, "No problem." So that's what was going to happen with the guns. So and this is recent. This is like only a couple months ago. Eric got a message that the guns were available to come back. And I'm like, wait, what? Because we were looking at it at different ways to also get more money for the survivors, if maybe a museum took them on or something like that. Because a museum could pay, to do that. But it's a morbid thought. It is I mean, anyone that would think about this, no one's going to want to go around and see the gun that was used to shoot at them. And I
Check this out
understand
real
that,
quick.
but it is a part of history and all sorts of stuff. So there's two sides of the coin. I was preferring to just either destroy them or put them in some acrylic and shoot them into the sun, whatever. What you got, man?
Check this out. So, and this needs to be discussed because obviously I could probably give a public service announcement on mental health and how we're going about it wrong and treating people, especially with PTSD, autism. But at the time, and here's where I'm going with this. At the time of the shooting, 1 in 5 mass shooters were on the autism spectrum scale. Now, also at the same time, they were trying to make a push to say, hey, let's not demonize people with autism. That doesn't automatically make them a shooter. That is absolutely 100% correct. In fact, people with mental health, some of our greatest people in history had mental health issues, from autism to depression to bipolar, whatever it was. So we're dealing with the mental health issue wrong. But
go ahead. I'm sorry. But we all are on that scale somewhere. But when it gets to the level of Bach and Beethoven and stuff like this, people don't think that. They think they're geniuses, but they're geniuses through another means because they've been able to tap into a certain part of their brain that they can readily utilize, become a savant. But go ahead. I didn't mean to jump on you.
But they don't want this to come out. Like I said, this embarrasses people. I mean, he fooled them, and I mean, Eric Paddock can, he was. I'm guessing Paddock was he's like thumbing his nose at them, like the whole, hey, let's go around the world and spread out and use up resources to track where this guy went. He went everywhere to make it look like he wasn't flying on a plane with 23 luggages full of ammo and guns. He was too lazy to drive. He was never going anywhere. He just made them go on a wild goose chase to spend money and resources, and that's what embarrasses them. They don't want copycats, but we've already had all these mass shootings, and we're not taking care of we're not dealing with the issues that need to be addressed to deal with this, because security is expensive. We're talking nationwide, corporation-wide, overpopulation centers that we can still, and this is the other BS excuse that they use. Back in the 80s fires, that was also MGM Grand, that Kirk Kerkorian came out and paid the victims, and then he sued the insurance companies and took them on. Instead of doing that, they turned around and tried to sue the victims, right? So a completely different mentality, for one. But, these guys just don't give a shit. It's greed. It's simple greed. They could have done a good deal, a fair deal to help these victims. Anita Bush got on and gave that speech, and MGM and their guys and the lawyers, they somehow got it to not air and everything else. But she gave a very passionate speech to every one of those casino owners, managers, CEOs. They should be looking at, and every corporation in this country, because at the end of the day, we can do something. They don't want to spend the money, and that's BS. What's it gonna? The problem is they've done risk analysis and they bought insurance for something they couldn't foresee, but they foresaw it enough to buy the insurance for it, right? But they've done risk analysis. What are the odds that it'll happen in the same place, that lightning will strike in the same place twice? Well, it can. It has in MGM properties already. So they just don't want to spend the money, and they think they can keep getting away by having their insurer pay it, and no one will be the wiser. This time it stops.
Let's analyze something that I had started to get into 2.5 years ago now. And there's one hotel that put a ridiculous amount of money into security. There's another hotel who never changed. The one hotel that did put a lot of money into security has never had a shooting. The other hotel, exactly. The other hotels have. The MGM managed properties have all had issues, but this one hotel where he hired Chris, some SEAL Team 6 members and some other guys or whatever, and they come in for security setup and networking and putting in physical objects. I won't say what a couple of them are. But yeah, like a long distance PET and a long distance magnetometer, or you have what's called MAD, which is magnetic anomaly detection. All kinds of weird, crazy crap that no one's ever heard of, hardly, in the civilian community was able to detect things as they come through the door. But the problem when they first put it in there was detect too much. But that was able to be bypassed without a problem. It was
Check
easy.
this out.
But hold on.
Check this out.
Let me finish.
Good.
He spent 30 some odd $million doing that. MGM didn't spend a freaking dime doing any of that. What they did was they went the opposite direction. They went
Exactly.
from
They cut the
the
security
guard to the $13 security guard. They went from the $48 supervisor to the $32 supervisor. They basically went from someone who had a brain, and then they went to and they were saving money, and now it bit them on the ass big time.
That's why they don't want it to go to court. So in counterintelligence, I was trained. Part of our training is we go in and do what's called a threat vulnerability assessment. And so we would find out where snipers are going to be, where a car bomb's going to come from. We're going to look at all avenues of approach. They didn't have snipers there because it cost them a whole hell of a lot of money, probably close to $100,000, to have snipers there for 3 days. They didn't have them. That's what should be done at every venue. They had the local PD with some lieutenant running the freaking show, and they didn't have any snipers because Joe Lombardo wants to keep the rifles in the car because of optics, because they don't want them walking around with AR-15 variants in public to scare the tourists. This is all about money. It's all about greed. They screwed up, and they can't even admit it.
If you're on the field and you're there, where would you have put the sniper?
You have counter snipers. You have designated marksmen. You have them on rooftops. You can have them in other hotel rooms.
No,
any one of them.
I think that it should have been a three. I'm going to jump in because I think it should have been. I agree with him, and I think this is what happens, and why we're arguing about this is because this is what needs to be done into these venues. Because, like I've told you before, Mike, and other people don't know, is that I'm a vendor. I can go in with a 24-foot trailer. I can load that thing up with whatever I wanted to. They don't check security. They have toothless security guards that are probably felons that can't get a job. Sorry, no offense, but that's who's securing us.
Yeah, absolutely.
The artists don't know. I mean, they're locked down to a certain point where they have their own private security right there. But I could be a terrorist. I could be whoever I wanted to be. Pose as a vendor, come in and completely massacre for 45 minutes because typically these venues are in places that are 35 miles, 45 miles away, and they're in little boony towns. So I refuse to go until there needs to be some type of federal law that mandates the states that they have to use a certified federal, I don't know, something agency or a private agency that has special training where they have sharpshooters, military, military.
Yeah, and CFC is that. That's the problem. That
CFC is the largest security company in the United States.
I will tell you. I know.
Even going into the venue into the vendor way that you would go, I mean, they're just like, oh, hey, and they don't look in your bag. They just give a quick glance and tell you to go on.
Check this out. So CSC is the largest security company in the United States for football events, sporting events type stuff. They have had snipers at other events. They do the inauguration stuff. They do all that. One of their own guys died in this event. They could have had those, but this came from a different place because they did not do the proper damn planning for a threat vulnerability assessment for a sniper. Now, where was the SWAT team? They trained on the old Sahara, I believe, Sahara Hotel with the FBI HRT team, hostage rescue team. They shot a mannequin through a window, as Doug Popper reported, years before. One of the lieutenants was there, works for MGM at the time of this event. So they were there on the scene. They've trained for this stuff. They get DHS reports and threats on terrorism and everything else monthly, if not more frequently. These guys had been warned, and that's why they don't want it to go to court, because their liability is a hell of a lot bigger than $800 million. It's multi-billions. But even if we were just being fair, no changes in security, no freaking apology, and the insurance company walks away with it. Now, what about the insurers' shareholders. Why is that company's shareholders more important than any other company? PG&E just had a big lawsuit over the fires. They paid out billions and almost bankrupted them. So why are they more special than any other company in this country? They are not. They're pretending to be because they're trying to protect the money. That's all it is to them. That's why James Moran can walk out with 54 million, not 32 like everybody thinks. He sold 22 million in stock.
Where are we now?
Yeah.
Where are we now? We know all this, Roger. Where are we now? How do we proceed forward? We don't need to sit and talk about all that stuff. Where are we now, and what do we need to do?
Well,
we
Las
all need to
Vegas
rise
is
up
no
and say
better
something.
than they were. Hold on, Roger. You take a breath. The problem is this. Sheriff Lombardo came out. I'm going to kill your mic again because it's really there we go. Okay, so you have Sheriff Lombardo who came out after everything was done, and they had this review, came through, and they come up with all these suggestions. They had all these suggestions, this list. The problem with that entire list is it's the exact same list that they did at several other cities that also knee-jerk reacted to these things. And they have a shooting, and then they come out like, what did we do wrong? Well, if you would have went to Orlando, or if you would have went any other shooting and seen what had happened, you don't have to do the assessment after it happens in your city. Your city has some special circumstances. Yes, because it's Las Vegas. Make other things because of that. Hire someone. I even went there and said, I'll do it. I'll do it for free, or you have to do it for $1, but do it for free to the when security, when she came out and she banned me from her property. And I'm sitting there thinking, how can you do that? How in the world could you do that? And you see these things where they paid $36 million for security. Mandalay Bay paid 820 something thousand or whatever it was. It was a ridiculously low amount when you compared it to the Wynn. And the hotel Mandalay Bay is, overall a bigger hotel when you compare the two, like MGM or whatever. But the security was so lax at all of the hotels, every single hotel on the Strip, to the point where they said, well, we need to implement this stuff in all of these hotels. Well, guess what? They haven't done it. They have not gone through and made it secure. And here's the thing. Everyone's going to say there's a balance. Okay, do you want people going through your bags like for 15 minutes when you come in? No, don't exaggerate that shit. Don't you? Because they come out with these circular fallacy type arguments and they say, do you want this level? I mean, you want it to be like an airport? No, I don't. I just want you to use the technology that's available to get me in there as fast as possible. And it's secure. And I know there's going to be a balance. And I know you can't stop everybody. But look at the hotels that have never had a shooting and look at the ones that have. To this day, Mandalay Bay, MGM, or any of the MGM properties have not implemented any security measures that apply to make it where they've actually done better. And I saw it firsthand. You can see the one video where I went through the service elevators and then I came back out, and then the next trip, MGM puts out that they put out a thing saying we're reviewing the video and we're going to put some changes in, and they put the changes in, and I did it again. And what pisses me off, and it's not because I did it, it wouldn't matter who did it. What pisses me off is that I was able to do it the exact same way. I didn't manipulate a lock. They put keypads on the door. They put all kinds of shit. All me and friend Jeff Marshall was the friend that was with me, the bald-headed guy, and we literally just walked in behind one of the valet guys as he walked through, and that was it. Boom, we're in. No big deal. There's a problem there, and it's the human factor. It's not the technology. It's the fact that one human can actually make the difference of that whole thing. If someone would have said, "Wow, your bags are heavy. What are you carrying today?" Well, that may not have done anything either. But it could have tripped him up a little bit. It could have tripped Stephen up. But no, did they? No, they didn't. And those are just simple.
Here's the thing. They've done the risk analysis. When you can weasel out of it by using foreseeability to cheat one young blonde girl that had the courage to take them to court. When you're willing to cheat the one girl, and even though you won, not even help her, not even refund her hotel stay, you don't make changes. Then it happens in 2014 and probably several times in between. And they lied about that and they got caught. They don't care because at the end of the day, they keep getting away with it until somebody stands up to them and makes them change. unfortunately, this is industry wide, but they can phase this shit in just like they did with the fire sprinklers. Not every building has fire sprinklers now, but you can phase it in over time. They don't want to spend money. The industry is going to be like, oh, we're going to buck that idea because nobody else wants to spend money. And now they conveniently do this during the pandemic to make people settle a little bit faster because they need money and they're scared and they're hurt. And you got intimidation tactics to scare people to say, oh, well, if you talk about any of this stuff, you're not going to get your money. These guys are crooks. They're walking away with more money than we are almost combined, between a few lawyers, and at the end of the day, nothing changes. And the reason nothing changes is because they keep getting away with it and because it's not their family member that's dead. Until it happens to them, everybody it's called the bystander effect. You walk by somebody with 10 people and they're getting mugged. Everybody keeps walking, right? But you're more apt if it's a single person walk by that they'll stop and help because they assume that nobody else is going to help you. There's nobody else around. If there's 10 people, they assume, well, somebody's going to stop. It's somebody else's problem to deal with. We need to all start standing up and taking responsibility for our country so that it's not somebody else's kid going to school or going to a movie theater. There is shit that we can do. We might not be able to stop every attack in the world, but we can make progress. We're always making progress for the future generations so that we leave this world a better place than when we got it. And that's what they're failing to do because of greed, pure and simple greed. And the governor's involved, the sheriff's involved. Some of the FBI agents might be looking the other way. The government's looking the other way because of money and needing the economy to come back and everything else. And everybody's looking the other way. And who's stuck paying the bill? The people with PTSD that have long-term effects for the rest of their life dealing with it. And that is a burden on society. So we either start doing the right damn thing now or we're going to pay for it later.
All right, so
Plain
I
and
sound
simple.
better now? All right, I'm making sure. I had to change my microphone settings, so hopefully that fixed that. Michelle, what you got, girl? Come in. And then your mic's going on. Okay, can anyone hear Michelle? Yeah, there she is. There she is. Sorry about that.
Hear me? Okay.
I hear
That's
you
okay. All I have to say is it's a screwed up deal, and this concert should have caused change to happen, and we all agree on that, and that's what we have to work forward. But right now what we're dealing with the facts, with the information that we have now, and how we're going to proceed forward and how we're going to make this happen. I'm the one, Roger's been a problem from the very beginning, and now I'm at the problem at the very end. And I'm really putting myself out there by doing what I'm doing, and I'm okay with it. But I could give two pinches of shit, like I said before, if both of these people were on the up and up. But they're not. They're not. That's the problem. How can you be? I would not, if I was a judge and my father was a vice president of MGM. I don't know if I could go up there and do that within good faith.
Right.
And do that. How could I just like bring out the news that my dad fucked everything up?
That's why they changed the dates on the mediation and didn't even give the full details, not the same details that I got, because I'm the one that exposed it to the lawyers. They confirmed it, and then they hid it from everybody else or gave them, because I'm the one that was typing in the chat room about it, and those people went to Doug Papa about it, but I was the original one to break it. And it's like, they asked me to be quiet. It went away. They were hoping that no one would be the wiser. And if everything was on the up and up, it's why didn't you just come out and tell the families that, what her relationship was? Why do you conceal it? Because they knew it was wrong.
I agree.
That's the simple truth of the matter.
There's a lot.
If everything was on the up and up, they wouldn't have been hiding it.
Okay, Rogers in the case is not in the case. He opted out. I opted in, and I opted in 2 weeks prior to me learning this information. So this is why I'm pissed off. Now, let's just say that we were given the option, the people that opt in, now that they have this information, and Mike, this question's to you.
Sure.
What do you think would happen if an X amount of survivors did, and it doesn't matter, well, it doesn't matter what group category they're in, but what do you think would happen if, or what do you think how the scenario would play out is if, let's say there was 20 or 30 survivors that said, you know what, MGM, I'm not doing this. And then Houston, we have a problem. Are they just going to, like, with everything that's coming out, I would have a hard time saying that they're just going to be able to walk away from everything. But what's your take on that? I know we need numbers, because if talking to a lot of survivors, people are scared, they don't want to talk. Is this phone being is this, are you recording me? I mean, these are kind of questions I'm getting, and I get it because I feel the same way too. But
Right.
what do you think the outcome would be if 20 or 30 of us stand together and say we want to opt out? Because that
Nothing.
question has been posed to me.
Yeah, that number would not. Well, first off, it would be irresponsible of me to speculate that happening at this point in time. If we went back 3 months ago or 4 months ago, it might be different, because you could go through it. It's like the settlement date was the 15th, and we're past that part. The now, if you want, if you're not a part of the settlement, you can still sue until August 14th. So that's the final date of being able to pretty much do anything. I mean, you can sue anybody for whatever reason you want, but it's going to get thrown out. So
Right.
here's where, based on my experience, where this will go. Number one, again, if it was 3 months ago and we had gotten into it, that would have allowed us to get into it, research it, find out if there's actually any traction to it. If there is something connected between Togliatti and Togliatti, and you go, okay, yeah, well, it's a father-daughter. Well, that's not the connection. A lot of people are misinterpreting that fact. However, on the surface level, you should still have recused yourself, Jennifer, because of the appearance of it, because it actually says of the appearance. What we do not have, however, is the actual ethics or code of ethics that they use at ARM, because this is a private matter. It was brought in as private, and they can do anything they want. But they would normally, and the most, probably 99% of the time, they would look at it and go, you know what? We need to follow some certain guidelines. And if they went too far out of bounds, people could cry foul for that. So I get all of that. But fast forward to reality where we're at right now, and that is this. I'm going to turn your mic off again just for a quick second, because it's like clicking right in my ear. If in reality, it didn't happen that way. So now people would risk, if somebody yelled loud enough, an individual, they can unravel their own settlement. If someone got a group together, and it'd have to be a group of like 300 or so, it'd have to be a large group. That's not going to happen. That just will not happen. Somebody have to go around and actually coach these people into believing something, because everyone's pretty much, you know what? I'm kind of, we're here, we're done. I just want to live my life. And somebody that's extremely important to me said to me today the following words: I just want to live my life and move on. And he, because he and I are super close, and I could tell that what was happening in the last few days is bothering him. And I get it. And I know that's the case, but it's not going to undo. A lot of people started to get put in fear because of a certain couple of individuals who ran around and stirred up shit when they didn't have to. And their names, I won't say their names, but I'm not talking about Roger, and I'm not talking about you, because you guys have.
I'll take credit for that.
No, I mean, well,
I'll take credit for it, because
I know who you're talking about.
I know. I think just about everybody knows what I'm talking about. But Roger, you're what you're doing is not this. This is Roger. If I caught you doing this, I'd be mad. This person is contacting specific people and basically trying to destroy the messenger by destroying the messenger. If you're going to destroy the message,
they're going to try and discredit the hell out of me, because. All right.
They who? No one has
They're
done
going
that.
to try and discredit me either way.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
well, that's because I got the dirt on all the damn lawyers.
no, that has nothing. I'm not talking about the lawyers. I'm talking about people contacting survivors. Who cares about the lawyers? The lawyers are lawyers. The lawyers. I mean, think about the lawyers. Where are they at on the scale? They're right down there with prostitutes, right? We don't know which one's above the other one. That's the way that generally people look at it. But the overall thing is when you have people contacting survivors from one side and another, and from the inside, from people well respected inside the survivor community, doing some of the things that they're doing, that's wrong. And then when you have a reporter who's coming out and doing essentially the same thing, and at the end of the story that they were going to produce, they're going to have a form there for you to fill out. Who the hell are you? Who are you to come in here and do that, which would truly jeopardize? And if someone's going to stand up for survivors, I think the point I'm making right now is valid, because that is overstepping the boundary. I have never, and I haven't seen anybody else contact a whole bunch of survivors and say a bunch of stuff and friend them on Facebook and then send them messages that, do that. Now I understand fishing for a story. I get it. Everyone kind of does, but that was overstepping a boundary. And the story still needs to hold on. Let me just give me 10 more seconds. The story still needs to be told. The story is valid from the core of it. It's valid in that there is a problem when you look at this from a surface level and possibly a subsurface level. But where there's not a problem is that everyone is thinking that, certain people are reporting this and it's unraveling the thing, and two is that everyone should unravel it, and that's not the case. We're not unraveling the current settlement. It's going to be the same. And if the settlement was unraveled, here's the bigger point: your settlement would go down, everyone's. So
no, anyone,
yeah, absolutely,
it's gonna
go down.
It's going to go way the hell up. Once I get done,
you need to do some crazy math and explain how that would happen with COVID going around.
Punitive damages,
huh?
Punitive damages can be up to times 10.
Listen,
you're going
punitive.
How do you get punitive damages? You have to go to trial.
Punitive damages. Yeah, that's exactly what needs to happen. They put money against the truth. So we got no truth. We got no changes. All we got was some money.
We would still be 3 years out. We would be 3 years out.
No, hold on. No. It gets expedited because I opted out. It gets expedited, kind of fast tracked, and they're going to try and draw it out. But you know what? Why they don't want people talking about this and why they don't want us to come together in one voice? Because I've been saying from day one, we needed to have a community spokesperson, whoever it was. I said I'd be willing to do it, or somebody else to stand up and speak out for all of us as a group, and us get together and discuss the issues. They didn't want us to discuss the issues because they could pick us apart individually and talk us out of it and downplay it and lie to us and deceive us and not tell us the full truth, not even talk to us about the settlement amount or discuss it before they accepted it, because this was a backroom deal for the lawyers and MGM's benefit, and they were going to top load the cases and basically bury the truth and shut up and get some money and color, and then everybody else gets screwed. This was about all of us, and that's why they don't want us talking, because if we all come and stand together, that number is going to go up, because they're not going to – all I got to do is walk in and show that damn video, and we start telling them the facts of what they've done that are provable and what they've covered up. And I guarantee you they'll be begging for mercy, because they will get punitive damages and they will go bankrupt.
No, they won't.
And they've been hiding money.
They've been hiding punitive damages. They will not.
Yes, they will.
Hold on, Roger. And I love that we argue, because this is good stuff. The reason why I'm saying they won't is because you have to know what punitive damages are and what they represent.
Oh, yes, I
do. Then you're going. Then tell me
the egregious behavior. It's because of their egregious behavior and lies and manipulating the situation.
Where is the egregious behavior?
Where's the egregious behavior? The fact that they've covered up other mass shootings and they were warned in court.
MGM covered up other mass shootings.
Not mass shootings.
Why do you?
I'm not trying to defend MGM. I'm saying that you're making points that are factually not. They don't have a foundation. So if you can't get punitive damages,
they tried to hide 2014.
Yes,
they hid 2014
Correct.
The lawyers came out with it to bring them to the table, but they try to hide it. They told the public, what they tell the public, we could never foresee this happening. They knew about it and they lied. They also know about the 2007 shooting. They lied
Roger,
because they don't want police reports on their properties because it makes them look bad.
That's the being outrageous. That's the problem. And everyone,
Oh, yes, it is.
It is for you, but it may not be for them, or it may not be for this guy over here. What's outrageous to you is not going to be out. There's like a general consensus across the board of what outrageous would be, and in most cases, because keep in mind I've been through these cases before, and when you
mean conspiring with the lawyers to defraud the victims, to commit fraud against the victims, so that they don't meet their fiduciary duties to everybody, and they conceal information that was pertinent to disclose to every plaintiff. That is egregious. That's conspiracy. It's fraud. Defrauding. They committed fraud against the insurance company too by acting like, oh, well, you need to foot the bill because they had a duty to defend when they knew that they were responsible and they covered it up.
You're talking about things it's another word. I'm agreeing with you in the substance of what you're saying, but I can't agree with you on the fact that you're using probably the wrong term. So when you say punitive damages, you can't use that because the punitive damages would be based on what the lawsuit is based on. Okay. The lawsuit is not based on the corruption of MGM. The lawsuit is based on the fact that the negligence of the possible negligence of MGM allowed a man to walk into a building with a bunch of guns to shoot people.
Exactly.
So that's
well, check it. Hold on. Check this out.
I want to say something. Okay, listen, because
One
I
second.
jump over you, Roger. It's difficult, Roger.
You got to put a timer on him. He's good though. It's fun.
Okay, but listen. This is the issue the way I see it. We have two issues. We have the settlement issue that needs to go and proceed and move forward. Mm-hmm. The second issue is what happened in the settlement. Do you agree with that, Mike?
Oh, absolutely. That needs that at some point in time, someone needs to say this is a new case, and
exactly
you're going to look at all 60 law firms, and because we've all seen it, and we know which ones were written right and which ones were not written so good. But is that egregious to the point where it's whatever? Yes, for that particular attorney, but not for all of them. So that's the point. Yeah. I'm thinking
the question would be is, why didn't they, if there's 65 attorneys and we have all these different, why wasn't a disclosure or whatever document that everybody was receiving exactly the same information?
Exactly. And I brought that up. And when I brought it up, the situation is this: a particular attorney is pretty much the one causing the most issues by not actually causing the most issues. And it's as stupid as that sounds.
I follow you.
Okay, yeah, I think because there's some behind this, people listening to this are going to go, Mike just did a complete circle jerk and has no idea what he's saying. What I'm saying is, because people that see this know what we're talking about. Everything they sent out to the survivors and to the victims' families was documents. It's like, okay, here's your documents. Here's what the documents mean. Here's your blah, blah, blah. And here's this. Please sign and get that back to us.
They did not give it to our families. They only gave it to us.
No, I said the victims' families. You're when I say victim, I mean a death. When I say a survivor, I mean someone that was there that survived. Yeah. So, and that's kind of been the accepted thing because that's just how that went. But anyway, so you have that, and then you have 60 different attorneys all able to basically write it the same way. So what you said is exactly what I was saying too. I said, you guys didn't get together because everything else is the same. If you look at most people's packets, it's almost identical except for the preface letters that the attorneys send with it. And some of the attorneys wrote some stupid shit in that too.
Well, I think that we just have to wait and see what happens next week, because that's really going to be the telltale sign of how things are going to proceed forward.
Right. Absolutely.
That's
and absolute agreement. And as this moves now, see, the thing is that when something here's the public perception. I'm gonna kill you, Mike, again for a second. The public perception when something like this happens is they like, oh wow, this is gonna, it's like, yeah, that's gonna mess up everything. Oh, these guys are gonna do this and blah blah blah, and it's gonna open up a new can of worms, and people are gonna get their ass kicked, and we're gonna get more money, and the settlement's gonna change, and it's kumbaya, and everybody's gonna be happy. The settlement was done a year ago. It's not, you can't go, the settlement's not going to change. No one's going to go back and say, you know what, you're right, we're going to give you more money. What will happen or could happen is that someone's going to come in and say, you know what, you were negligent by telling your client that, and you need to pay. But it'll be individual cases that'll be brought against the individual attorneys for maybe if they made mistakes, or nothing at all, because this is all wrapped up.
Don't be saying that.
I know.
Can I tell you why that is?
That will not happen.
Can I tell you why that is? Because all the lawyers are going to come together and throw those attorneys under the bus to cover their own butts. Because this is across the board. It should have never happened the way it did. And a lot of them probably weren't necessarily in on it, but they got bamboozled by certain attorneys that were in on it. And they thought they could get away with it. And now they're caught. So,
here's my point.
It is what it is.
For everybody to understand is, as a survivor, and first of all, can you tell me still how many people are online, or is it just the three of us? Because I can't see anything.
Yeah, it's just us. No, there's 7,822 people watching this right. No. I'm kidding. It's only 10.
You can't fool me anymore, Mike.
And did you pull a chair on me? Did you go change your top?
No.
Yeah.
10 attorneys.
No, it's the same top.
Okay.
Okay, so now what was I saying? Because I forgot. You know how I am.
I know, my bad. You were saying, let's see if I'm right. I'm sorry, I screwed that.
Is it just the three of us for real?
Well, it's just the three of us that are actually chatting. There's 10 people now, 11 people that are in there watching.
You got to help me out here, guys, because you guys already know how. Oh, well, that's one of the things too. Is my argument is, everything was disclosed, and you can't talk about your information. Right. Everybody felt shut down. You couldn't take even for another attorney. I tried to get attorneys to look at my paperwork just to make sure I was understanding everything.
Right.
We have a lot of people on medication. We have people on painkillers. We have people on Xanax, and all different kinds of medications. So how are we supposed to make an educated decision about, and everybody's gonna say, well, ask your attorney. Right. I can't go into all that right now. I
understand. Yeah.
Okay, I can't go into that now, but
right.
That was a hurdle for me. So how can they expect people that have mental issues to actually understand and know what we're doing, and especially when everything gets all muddled? Now, my thing is, if Egglet went on to this show, and as I posted in my Facebook, in the beginning, 2.5 years ago, Live Nation screwed up. The fencing was bad. The exits were bad. There was only one way to get in, one way to get out. Okay, agreed. We all agree with him on that. We agree that MGM was liable. MGM was responsible. These are his words. MGM is responsible. MGM is this. MGM is that. They didn't want to pay for armed guards. They wanted to pay $13 versus $18. I'm not making this shit up. This is what Eaglet said. So when you look at that, you're like, oh man, this guy is gonna, kick ass. He's gonna take care of us, all of us, whoever. And then you come around, and then
sellout ever.
And then you come out and you get I just want to make it very, very clear that MGM had absolutely no liability in this case. And by the way, I would send my family there. I mean, what is that? Every survivor was going like this, and we're like, is that really Egglet? And that's when our eyes opened up.
That's why when I put his whole thing up, the whole 47 minutes of it or whatever, and now it's going to be called the 40-minute Ask Us-a-thon. When I was going through it, I watched it. I was going to put the video up raw, just like it was. And then as I'm watching it, I'm actually saying this to the screen. I'm going, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. And I'm saying that. So then I thought, maybe somebody's going to watch this and they're not going to like, connect the dots. So I literally just started putting these graphics on the screen saying bullshit ad, bullshit's on the way. Here's the bullshit meter, because it was just ridiculous. It was just so absurd and ridiculous that this attorney who's, and Robert Egglet, and I know you're not going to watch this. It'd be like really, really weird if you did, but if you do, you're an idiot. And for you to go out and say the shit you did, you basically turned your back on everyone. And everyone looked at you and they said, wow, he's our cheerleader. He's our go-to guy. He's the multi-billion-dollar attorney with the $140 million office, or however much he paid for the damn thing. All of this stuff. And he's our guy. And he's going to help all of our attorneys and these other attorneys and blah, blah, blah. And they're all going to get together. And at the end, we're going to sing Kumbaya and walk off in the sunset. No, that's not what happened. What he did was he was the biggest sellout that I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of cases. And in this case, and I can tell you, I have never in my life, in any case I've been involved in, I've been in case, whatever, it doesn't matter. But I've never seen an attorney flip-flop like he did. I've seen attorneys come out and say, we're so happy that we were able to reach a settlement. We're both adversaries, and we both didn't see eye to eye, but we were able to come together in the best interest of the claim, and da 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 da. And they move on and they're done. No, this idiot comes out and says that everything is great, and that he says they're the most reprehensible company he's ever seen. Not that he's ever seen in Las Vegas, that he's ever seen, and he's sued a lot of companies. And so they're so
and then he moved on.
And now they flip flop it, and they are a model corporation. And I would have just like you said, Michelle, I'd have my family stay there, or whatever. Well, of course you're going to have your family stay there because they are comps. You ain't ever going to have to pay for a room probably forever.
He probably is going to have his own suite.
I think he's getting Michael Jackson suite.
I mean, that's just us bullshit and talking.
You gotta understand. He moved on to opiates. That's a multi-billion-dollar deal. Then he went on to China and talked about their fraud and cover-up. I mean,
and that's $1 trillion.
This is what they do. They're moving on as fast as possible. They negotiated more on building materials on City Center than they did on 59 lives and 800 wounded. They don't give a shit about nothing but the money at the end of the day.
Right. And I don't know, and I can't say, but rumor has it. Rumor on the block is that probably once this all is said and done, that they're going to turn that site into a parking lot, which is absolutely disgusting. Disgusting.
Yeah, well, that's already a done deal. That's happening.
It's a slap. It's a slap in the face to every.
That could have been negotiated as part of the deal. They didn't negotiate anything. What kind of negotiation? I mean, when you hear Trump talk about bad deals, this is the bad deal of all. I mean, we got no apology even. We got no security changes. We didn't talk about the parking lot and what they were going to do there. The only thing that was discussed was money, and they got the insurance company to pay for it.
Yeah, but that's all they have. That the bargaining chip is that. Then keep in mind too, MGM was going to donate that property to the SWAT team. MGM was just going to level
as a bribe. As a bribe,
exactly. It's a reward.
That's raise hell about it.
It's like thank you for what the hell did LVMP do? And think about this now. Let's talk about George Togliatti for a second and where he screwed up. A month before the shooting, one of the people, I think her name's Wendy, she comes out and she tweets that Mandalay Bay or MGM has its own internal SWAT team. We call them the Emergency Response Team Officers. So they had ERTOs. Well, why would you come up with something that's hard to say anyway? Just stick with SWAT or whatever. But no, they have the ERTOs, and I've seen it before. No big deal. It's their internal SWAT team. So you have their internal SWAT team that clearly did not handle the situation. You have the actual SWAT team from LVMPD that didn't handle the situation, didn't show up on the scene until an hour and something later. And even when they did, only 2 people that went in that room. The first person, Levi Hancock. Second person, Sean O'Donnell. Those are the only 2 that was on the SWAT team. You had a canine guy and you had somebody else, a regular street beat cop. So that's what you had to go in. The first 4 people that are going to go into the room where this guy just had the largest mass shooting in U.S. history. That's what you're going to have. And where's your SWAT team? It's not like you're on the outskirts of town. You were right there. South Command you can walk to South Command. That to me is huge. And then George Togliatti, when he was asked, basically the question came out: where was your emergency response team that he touted that he was the one to do whatever? So he's nowhere to be found. No one answers the question. He doesn't answer the question. What happens to him? He's rewarded. Steve Sissy becomes governor and brings over Jim Murrin, and then goes, let's see here. Oh, George Togliatti, how you doing? Dude, you did such a great job. We're going to make you, the safety manager of this state, so to speak. So this guy who could not do the security at Mandalay Bay is now the security of the entire state. How's that happen?
Check this out. Check this out. He ran that department before and was fired by a previous governor. So he went to work for MGM. Now he gets a promotion to go back after the biggest security failure in the country since 9/11. So, like, how do you get a promotion? I get it. I don't know nothing about the guy other than his FBI record and, what I've been able to pull up. But at the same time, the governor at the time, who was a Republican, Brian Sandoval, goes to work for MGM in China. Oh, well, no wonder nothing went anywhere. And then the governor-elect, Siciliak, comes in. Joe gets elected. They're all getting elected and running off this Vegas strong stuff. And yet they're the only ones profiting off of it and keeping nobody got fired. Who got fired? Hell, Campos got possibly $300,000 and a couple condos out the deal. I mean, and he got it within the first 6 months. I mean, he got paid out before anybody else.
Hendricks did get fired, but then they picked him up with the
rehired him. And who's going to want him in their foxhole? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not knocking the guy.
As soon as things pop off, I'd shoot him, and then I'd keep going.
Yeah, because you don't want to get shot in the back on accident. Like,
exactly.
I'm not knocking the guy. I mean, I get that he panicked. I mean, obviously we look at cops and we think, okay, they're going to go in and they're going to charge in and do that.
You and I are saying there's no sympathy for this guy. Nothing.
Well, at the same time, I get he failed, and I would not have him out on the street. Maybe put him on an office desk, whatever.
Back in there, but even on top of that, this is not a normal officer. This is the guy that trains.
He's a training officer. He's a training officer.
If it was the officer that froze, I'd be like, well, people freeze. I've done it myself. You probably have too. When shots start, that first initial couple seconds, your mind is trying to figure out, okay, where to come, and that's just enough to freeze. But it's not really a freeze. You're just trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. And then this guy, being a training officer, shouldn't have been but it happened. So I have empathy for him for that particular moment in time. Just that. I have zero empathy for him after the fact when it was obviously he froze and people died because of him. And if he would have just laid some suppression fire down the hallway, I mean, Paddock shot out of the room. Shit, shoots a couple rounds in there, and people are saying, "Well,
was he just
three girls in there? Well, shoot the 3 girls. You got 15 dead people outside." Logic.
Hey, check this out. So
who exactly are you talking about right here?
They harp on Hendricks being on the 31st floor, but they don't talk about the 3 armed security guards that were on the 32nd while we were getting shot at for 4 volleys and did absolutely nothing either. In fact, they covered that up altogether. That's another part why punitive damage is, because they lied and covered up facts. They doctored evidence. This all goes to a pattern of conduct and misconduct.
Mm-hmm.
And that does bring in punitive damage. I promise you that.
Well, Roger, maybe you should represent yourself.
He was going to.
Yeah, I may be, because what lawyer is going to want to go up against 65 of the top law firms in the country and potentially, MGM with billions of dollars? I just want to walk in and say my piece, show my video, which they want to get thrown out because apparently I don't have a right to stand in front of a judge, even though it's part of our civil rights for a jury trial. I don't apparently have that right to do that because I wasn't physically injured, even though PTSD does change brain chemistry and has long-term effects, and they're recognizing that stuff. But yet they're going to try and get it thrown out on some technicality because they don't want the truth to ever coming out because it will bankrupt them because public opinion people will stop going there until they fix their security. Because it's going to be somebody else's kid.
I have a question.
Sure.
In any way, does anybody think that our civil rights, our constitutional rights were violated in anything?
Which one?
Either one of these, our civil rights or constitutional rights.
I mean, like, which one do you? I mean, because there's a lot of those. Which one would you?
I don't know which one. That's why I'm
okay.
asking. In general, does anybody feel that there's any of that comes into play with any of this, as far as
For my case, it does.
Well,
because they're going to try and stop me from ever getting a day in court.
I'm asking Mike.
Yeah, the situation would be made aware because AFL-CIO would come in. You'd have even Jim Breslow. That's what he is a civil rights attorney. And so the civil rights that if we had to look at it and go, okay, let's stretch, and add something in there, is that a lot of people feel like they didn't have a voice. It's like, okay, we agreed thinking we were going to get this absolute top-notch dream team to come in here and get us the best settlement possible and all this other stuff. And not only were you, I'm going to pretend I'm a survivor for a second, which I'm not. And I don't want to rub nobody the wrong way, but the only way I can say this will make sense is if I was a survivor, I would say, okay, great. We got this. Oh, wow. We've got Eglet. Oh my God, this guy's like amazing. And we got 60 law firms. Wow. We're going to kick some ass. And then the first, it's like watching a sporting event. And you're like, man, this game's getting boring because the score's not changing. It's still 800 and the score stays the same. And that happens. And then, oh, wow, we're getting sued. Wait, what's going on here? This has never happened in the history of time. No company has ever used the Safety Act to sue the victims of a mass shooting event or anything for that matter. And they did that as a stall. We know why they did it. And it's a tactical move, but it was a dumb one. And so where the problem I see with that is were civil rights affected? Your right to fair this and your right to have proper representation, and were you represented proper? Should someone come in? There's a couple of attorneys that I could sit back and go, you know what? And I'm not going to say the name because all three of us would say the exact same name. I would sit back and go, this guy doesn't need to be in this game at all because there's like 3 or 4 screw ups, but that's not my position to do that. And there's always going to be that, no matter who's at the top. There's always going to be someone at the bottom. Not all attorneys are going to be the same, and you still be able to say the same argument. But there were some mistakes made in this.
That's why some of those attorneys don't like that attorney, and they told me on tape because they didn't like what he pulled and they didn't agree with it. But none of them stood up and spoke out. In fact, they quote told me that Robert E.G. doesn't speak for all of us attorneys. I said, well, then you had a duty to stand up and set the record straight and have your own press conference, and none of you guys did that. You failed us. And many of these attorneys might be great people and actually be good in their profession and trying to uphold the reputation of lawyers because, like I said, there's good and bad in every profession. But they all had a duty to stand up when something was going wrong. And whether it's just a major goof, but there's a lot of little ones that add up. And nobody stood up for us and said anything. And that's wrong.
And
plain and simple.
We did it for ourselves because we felt that we were
being deprived information.
Yeah, we just couldn't. And then you work in the medications and who's on what and making decisions by themselves. And if they're I'm not saying they did or they didn't, but I'm saying if anybody is spoon feeding somebody, I mean, you're thinking that, okay, this is my attorney, is going to be completely honest with me and transparent.
Well,
and then you might find out
yeah.
otherwise, then
Mhm.
there's a big question raised.
I think some of the and I don't want to put people on a scale, but some of the more obscure attorneys, some of the ones that may only had 20 or 30, they felt like they didn't have a voice too. So your point is very valid. And then the guy with the 2,500 clients is big whatever Kahuna, whatever you want to call him, and he's calling the shots. And that tends to be the case in every one of these. There tends to be a lead attorney group, which is understandable so that people can do stuff. But the problem is when your lead attorney is also making the same mistakes as the guy that only has 20 or 30, clients, there's a problem.
Well,
Okay, this is
who
wait a
called
minute,
him?
wait, Roger, please wait.
Mhm.
I will tell you that, and I don't believe that I'm disclosing anything, but I've never talked to Egglet before. And
Yeah,
after I
right.
opted in, I have another name for him, but after I opted in, why would he want to get on the phone with me and talk to me?
I'd love to talk to him.
Well, call him.
I've messaged him. I
Well, I
twittered
got his
him
phone number
today.
right here. I'm going to call him and see if he wants to come on the show.
But
So,
I'll
Roger Egglet, if you're watching, why is it you wanted to talk to me? Why me? Why little me? I'd already opted
why
in.
didn't he call me? Why doesn't he call me?
He was going to call her because there's 3 letters that I can say that once he heard those 3 letters and the level it was going to go to, that created a problem. The letters are N, B, C.
Yeah,
So
I just want them to feel maybe some of the pressure they try to apply to everybody else. Let them answer. And, these guys are snake oil salesmen. Maybe not all of them, but they're all smooth talkers. They got their degree, and everybody assumes that they're of the highest caliber, and all that. And they've made some big mistakes. And the biggest one is that they thought that they were going to get away with this, and nobody was going to be the wiser. And it's unacceptable behavior.
I believe that they thought, woo, man, we got away with it.
I'm going to start wrapping this up, but here's one thing I want to kind of go back to, and I want to clarify it maybe a little. I'm not trying to clarify something so that you guys accept it any better. I want to clarify it because I don't think I said it as well as I could have, because I say things sometimes, and my military side tells me to say things one way, and my overly empathetic side, because I'll cry at the drop of a hat for some reason, will say something else. And so the thing with that is frustrating is when something happens like the Togliatti effect, where you had the father and the daughter, blah, 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 and you see it and you're like, holy shit. And Katie had to do the same thing when she's like, oh my God. Everyone that sees this has basically the same reaction. I can't think of anyone that didn't, up to and including the lawyers that were in the case. Now they've been over time, they've been conditioned to it. But when this first came out, I can tell you one attorney that I was near. Well, I won't say where I was. I would just say I was near this attorney when that attorney heard it, and it was a she, and now everybody knows who it is. And she went ballistic, and she got a call that like to calm her down or whatever, and the call was from Edgar. And I remember hearing, and I had walked away, and I came back, and then I heard something about something I was doing because I was about to go in there, and then I hear, "Who the hell does he think he is?" I'm thinking, wow. So, and I'll leave it at that because the actual verbiage that was spoken, I can't talk about, but I just want to let you guys know that even that attorney saw something wrong. So the attorneys I've talked to, yeah, they got the sticker, they got the shock value, and over time. And keep in mind, we kind of have to listen to them too, because they're doing it, and some of them I actually have a lot of respect for. There's a handful, but and some we don't even know. one person, there's some that I've told stories because they say that this actually went smooth. We don't agree with the dollar amount either, and we thought that was a shock value too. But from the settlement standpoint, as far as the individuals, they couldn't find anything, so I had to kind of like, okay, looking for that. No, but if it's there, I'm going to find it, and if I do, it's going to be the biggest stink you've ever heard. But so far, nothing.
Check this out.
I just want to say,
who did MGM call? They called Robert Eglett. Why? Why was he the leader?
Who did MGM call? Why did they call
Yeah, MGM called him because he got on an announcement that they called him to work out a settlement. They called him. It's on public record. MGM called him, according to his own words, they called him to negotiate a settlement. So that's why he became the leader, because they already had this deal in the bag. They already had an intention that this was not going to go to trial.
I want to see that. Where'd you hear that one at? Because I've never seen that.
I'll pull it up and get it to you, Mike. But yeah, Robert Eglett got on. There's I believe it's a video that he says MGM contacted me and said, let's try and work out a mediation, basically paraphrasing there, but they called him according to his own words. So I'd like to know why. There's a lot I'd like to know, but hey, I just want to let them know they're not getting off the hook this easy, not with me at least. And I'm not doing it for my own self. I'm doing it for everybody. And I apologize to the families if it's coming off or they're being told that I'm going to ruin their deal. That was never my intention. Had they done this above board and just been upfront and honest and worked a deal in fairness for everybody and told the truth and fixed these things, we wouldn't be in this position now. And I didn't put us there. They did. They screwed this up, not me.
Go ahead, Michelle.
and I just want to make a statement too, that I am not out to hurt anybody. I'm nervous. I'm scared. I don't understand why this would happen as a regular person, that I couldn't lay my head down at night and accept this, but to be able to live with that. And I don't know how this happens. The other problem that I have a big problem with him is he's supposed to be the number one trial attorney in the country. And for one of the biggest cases in his life. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. And so and this is a case close to home. This is his home ground. And he couldn't do a better deal than $800 million? What kind of attorney is he?
Right. I think we're all absolutely agreeing with that.
Was not enough.
Right. And it didn't move. And we know it didn't move because of the insurance. I think, Roger, you said you're going to tell me something different on that. But, it's too close to the insurance amount for it to really be something else. Yeah, the $50 million buffer. There may have been something there where that $50 million had to be separated from the settlement for whatever reason, in case Zurich, name them, in case Zurich went out of business for some reason. So,
no, Zurich has more money than MGM, but check this out. They didn't even reach the insurance policy cap.
Right.
They didn't even get the cap. This was dictated by MGM. The lawyers basically just went along with it. MGM dictated it. That's why there's no media. And then our own lawyers helped with the media, I'm pretty sure. So that, why wouldn't you come before the country and say, hey, we have this video that disputes the entire damn timeline that you got, 16 minutes that you need to account for? Why wouldn't they ever come forward with that in 2.5 years? Why?
Roger, can I tell you something about the video? And this is just my opinion. I think you're wrong.
I assure you, with 100%, I'd stake my life on it. I am absolutely 100% correct on my video. And that's what they don't want to answer for. 16 additional minutes.
Well, I hope that you're able to prove that, because that will just unravel everything.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't want me to get to court.
If they wouldn't want to
me and Roger went around on that one ourselves with the 800 messages back and forth, and we probably will not agree on that. But the thing is that the bigger picture here is that the things we do agree on are way bigger than some of the other things.
Exactly.
And that's just how it is, because now we have to look at some other things. But yeah, I think what I'm going to do, Roger, I'm going to give you this promise one day, within the next week or so. And I got to go to Vegas and do something on Wednesday. And so, but I'd like to schedule a
Vegas?
thing with you, and I'll go and do the video like I did last time, because I don't know where that original file was. I think I worked off the smaller file that you gave me, and then I'll go back through and I'll show you from my perspective, you show me from yours, and we'll just keep going back and forth, but not to prove the other one wrong. It's just to prove the points and the facts of it. If you're speaking factually about what is actually occurring, then I'm 100% cool with it. But the speculative thing is what me and you got into it last time for, and that was just, we were both hot headed right then. So, but we're cool.
I'm cool with that. I can prove it scientifically. Just hey, find an expert and firearms trajectory, whatever. I guarantee you, and light. I guarantee you, I will stake my life on it. I'm betting my life on it. I mean, I'm challenging the fucking mob basically, and saying, "Hey, screw you. You're full of shit." I mean, who goes and does that other than a crazy ass Marine? Because of course that's what they're going to call me. But they thought they could stick me in a jar and contain me, and they can't. And I can prove it. I've got the combat experience behind me, and my record is what it is. And hell, even my own attorney, I've got emails from my attorney's assistant that says, "Yeah, I can definitely see the gunfire." Like, no shit. Like, I've had countless people tell me, "Oh, it's reflection." I can prove it scientifically, and that's what they don't want to come out. Guarantee it.
And so that's what you need to bring when we do that show. Bring your science and blind me with your science.
Ooh.
He blinded me with science.
Roger, listen. Linda.
Linda.
I'll bring my shades for you too, Mike.
Roger. So think about this.
Huh.
If you are, I'm not downplaying it. I'm looking on the other side of it. Okay. If you're such a threat with that video, why wouldn't they have given you such a deal that you? I mean, I know you're for the people and everything, and if they would have given everybody the right thing, don't you think that they would be like, we really got to give this guy a settlement that, I mean, I don't know. This is just what I'm thinking. You would think that you would want to set somebody up like that and make him go away.
Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Specifically, you think they haven't done behavioral analysis on some of us? This is what I did. They specifically know that I wouldn't take their money. And then I could say, "Hey, they offered me $30 million to shut up and go away." And I told them no. How bad would that look? So instead, because I've been a freaking thorn in their side from day one, they thought they could insult me even more.
Yeah, and you've been fighting a fight for 2.5 years, and it's draining. It's exhausting. But the one thing I want to say before I finish is to any of the survivors or anybody that's listening that's in this. I am not doing this to be a troublemaker. I am not doing this for money. I've said it on tape. I would give up every penny of my settlement, for the truth. And one of the things, and some of my stipulations would be that MGM gave us all a written apology. I mean, we went over all that stuff. And it's money comes forth, in line. So any survivors that feel like they don't want to be involved in a conversation, they just want it to go away, I get it. If there's survivors that are mad as hell and they want to have a voice, I get it. It's your choice to choose what you want to do. You don't have to go against us and you don't have to go with us. But let us do what we think that is right for us and for the rest of the survivors without bashing everybody. We don't need bashing right now. Everybody needs to come together collectively as a group. And the reason why we ended up not going to trial or even just doing individual arbitration is because we didn't stand together and we got mixed up with all these attorneys. That's my personal opinion. So I do not want I know that once the news breaks, I'm going to have hate mail. It's going to be 50-50, You bitch, you this, you that. I already know it, and I'm ready to accept it, and I don't care. They don't know what I know, so just leave it at that. And I'm talking about my own personal experience, and I can't go into it And I wish I could say something, but y'all know that we are under basically an NDA and we cannot disclose it's confidential information. So I just want to put that out there for anybody that thinks that I'm being a troublemaker. I am, but I'm not. I'm not your problem. I'm somebody else's problem.
Can I just say before I go, I agree with everything you said there. I do want to say something, and I'm obviously not a lawyer, but I can tell you that a non-disclosure is null and void when it's meant to cover up a crime.
Right.
So I just tell you all, hey, I'm going to keep fighting. You guys didn't need me, right? What's one guy out of 4,400 people? They didn't need every one of us, right? So what's one guy standing up and fighting? You know, like, what are they worried about? So y'all are getting the 14 extra grand added into your settlement somewhere, spread out over 4,400 people. But at the end of the day, when this is said and done, I'm going to keep fighting because I'm going to do the right thing for the right reason. And I can say I proved that because I'm the only one, as far as I know, that walked the hell away from all the money to do what's right and say it. Yeah. And I don't blame any of you because if y'all knew some of the things I knew.
I don't think that's a fair statement to say, Roger.
Well, hold on. Give me a second. What I'm saying is if you knew what I knew at the time, you probably wouldn't have made the same decision you made either. But you didn't know because they were concealing the information that I had and knew. So if you don't have the information to make that determination, I understand why everybody went with it. But that's because they were withholding information from you, and that's not fair to none of us. And it wasn't fair for them to come to me and say, "Well, the kids aren't going to get money because you're opting out." Because one person opts out and doesn't take the money, they're not going to get anything. That's bullshit. That's pressure tactics.
Roger, before you go, specifically state what information they withheld
about the judge, the full conflict of interest.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily, that's the case for you, but it's not the case for anyone else I've found. There's maybe one other person that has that case. The more I dig into it, the more I'm finding that people were, and it was revealed. It's just people.
Hold on. Yeah. Was it revealed to them before mediation started, or was it revealed after they already started? Because that's where they came in and changed dates.
It's a private case. They don't have to. That's the whole thing. But when it was revealed.
Yes, they do. She cannot start on a case before you tell your client who it is.
Nope.
Every state law is meant for disclosure to avoid that conflict of interest. You cannot select somebody and then tell somebody after they already started the job that hey, this is who it is.
That is disclosure. It's like, I'm going to come in and say, hey, I just want to let everybody know I fart a lot, so you're just going to have to deal with it. But I'm still going to be taking you on this train. You know, that's a stupid analogy, but it's late. But the disclosure does not have to be done before. The disclosure can be done at any point in time before the person actually does anything. But
she was already working on it.
Here's the bigger part.
Listen to what he has to say, Roger.
The reason why it's not supposed, and this is what I'm learning, I had to learn too. The reason why it's not as effective or as bad in this case is because a mediator has no way to control or change the course of the settlement at all. They
Bullshit.
are. I know. Hey,
bullshit. Sorry, Mike.
Man, be quiet, man, just for a minute. So, but I get that too. There is a way that they can influence. That's true, but the actual the rule of it is that person does not have the power to actually affect anything. However, in practice, everyone that I know knows that they can suggest things to say, hey, you really shouldn't be doing that or whatever. But she can't change amounts. She can't say that this person gets this amount and this person gets none of that. It's basically just making certain that all the paperwork's done properly, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like she's babysitting the case, so to speak.
And making sure that every attorney makes sure the clients sign and opt in.
Right. But the fundamental thing is disclosure does not have to be done before that person starts working. Disclosure just has to be done.
If they're already influencing decisions on how processes are done, they're already working on behalf of the attorneys before disclosing it to us. That is a conflict of interest. We had no say in any of this. They wouldn't even have told us had I not brought it forward to the attorneys. The only reason it even got disclosed to us is because I brought it up to the attorneys, but she was already working on the case.
Yeah, somebody said that they already knew that there was a conflict there to begin with, but obviously.
Mike, I think I lost you there for a second.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys have a good night. Hey, we
Hey,
can't solve
night,
the world's
Roger.
problems tonight, but hey, I'm going to keep fighting. That's what I do. I'm not going down without a fight.
We
So
love you, Roger.
love you guys too. Hey, peace, love, happiness, all that good stuff. And, God works in mysterious ways.
And then sometimes he doesn't, and that's crazy. But the thing here is that for everyone to understand, and this is my rollout, the settlement is not something that anyone is intentionally or even unintentionally trying to change or unravel or whatever. I have not met one person who said
Right.
that, oh wow, I want to unravel this thing and make the whole case go back to and we all got to go start redoing the talks or whatever. And the other thing is that if, and I'm telling you this from the actual numbers of it, if this case did unravel and went back, the dollar amount would go down based on current economic situations around the world and the current situation with the insurance market. That's that's irrefutable. That's just how it would be. If everything was going good and we had the good economy and the jobs and blah blah blah, it'd just be a toss up. You could go, who wants to gamble that? And at that point, no one wants to gamble it. But the issue of the reporting, and some of the attorneys probably doing it a little bit sideways or whatever, then that's a whole different issue, and that's going to be per attorney. It's not like the whole case is wrapped up in what this one attorney did. So I just don't want anybody to think that that's what's happening, and that's so far from it. And I think, and I'm going to say this to Katie and Bianca directly: stop contacting survivors. I'm not the spokesman for the survivors. That's some other guy that lives in Vegas, but I'm not the spokesman. But from a reporter to reporter, from someone that created the American Press Association and sat down there and had to write the bylaws and the mission statements, all these different things for a press organization, one of the things I always remembered was our internal code of ethics. And part of that was you don't contact someone that you know was represented by an attorney without getting permission from either the attorney or whatever, or if the person is just so adamantly against everything that they're going to talk anyway, then what are you going to do? You're going to listen to them. I get that part. But you're fishing. You're going out of your way to specifically go after survivors, and the way you're doing it is kind of rubbing a lot of people the wrong way. It's not me saying this. This is the survivors contacting me and other people and going, hey, this person called out of the blue. And to the individual person who knows who that person is, who basically claimed that I'm the one that caused all this. No, it was Roger. No, I'm kidding. The thing is, for you to say that is irresponsible, and it shows me all I ever needed to know about you, plus all the other things that were done. I didn't cause this. If I do report, I don't even get paid to report. So I can't even call myself a reporter if I'm not paid to do this. So, but if I see something that's news, and this is obviously newsworthy because NBC's picking it up, did you call Katie and bitch her out? Did you call Bianca? No. Did you call Doug Papa? No. Did you call Roger? No. You contacted me and bitched me out about it. And the only reason why you did it is because I can't say it. All right, guys. Everybody have a good night.
Mike, maybe you should just give her a call tomorrow.
No, yeah.
I'll have a talk with her. I'll have a talk with her.
Well, just say you and I were on the phone for what, 3 hours last night. So just my stance with that, and I just don't feel. And I'm not a spokesperson for the survivors. That's we have a CEO of Survivor Affairs. That's that guy. He does that. But for me, I am a reporter, or journalists, investigative journalists, and I know what's right and what's wrong and what we're supposed to do or not supposed to do. I'm not saying that her getting the story is the wrong thing to do, because people twist my words around. They say, well, you don't want me to get the story out? You don't want me to get the truth out? No, that's not what I'm saying. Do you need me to write this down for you? No, I'm saying that the way that person is doing it, you put the story out and you wait for people to contact you. You don't put the story out and put a form at the end of it, and you don't start contacting people off of these boards and stuff, friending them and then sending them messages, like hoodwinking them into this conversation. And I have read the conversation that was stated from, well, namely from Bianca, and it's very inappropriate. That's all I'm saying. My opinion, it could be my opinion, but it's my professional opinion in this.
I asked about that.
Yeah.
Today, I said, and they said, yeah. I said, do you guys always do that? And the answer was, yeah. She goes, there's times that's what we need to do. And they're just trying, they're not harassing anybody. And I understand that people just don't want to be contacted, or some want to be contacted. And I'm not the reason either that they're being contacted. I have my own personal friends. And, you know, if I have something to tell my personal friends, I tell them, and whatever they want to do with that information, they can do themselves. But I have not, well, on just on my friends on, you know, Facebook and whatnot. Yeah, we just, everything is just so fragile right now, and we're close to the end, and everybody's freaking out, and everybody just needs to take a deep breath and chill out. And everybody has to remember, you know, who's on our side. And,
and this is going to go on NBC. Nothing's going to stop the story. The story is going to, you know, has been flipped a few days. So the people that are saying, I thought you said it was going to be on. Well, we thought it was going to be on too, but things changed. They had to change a couple things. Maybe it didn't go through legal. Whatever the reason is, then
I will tell you what the reason was.
What was it? This time on this one
is because we had the shooting here at Westgate, 12 miles.
No, I know that one, but yeah, there's something I can't say it because it's inside information.
Okay. Well, that's just what I understood, because the news here, which I didn't watch, it was just taking over all, you know, all the news time, and and then
Night Mama done.
Memorial weekend and all that kind of stuff. So
all right. Well,
Mike,
you have a good night.
Bye,
Get some sleep and sleep late tomorrow.
What sleep?
I know, exactly. That's what I'm starting to feel. I'm sitting here just playing total drag ass. All right, guys. Everyone, thank you for visiting us and blah blah blah, and have a good night. And we'll see where this goes. And I'll have another update probably in 15 minutes. Talk to you later. Have a great night. Thank you for visiting 505 News. I'm Thurber. Peace out. Bye bye.